Gabe would taught me how to help settle shows and stuff. Like I did everything. Like I was legit the only crew guy, and I got paid $0 a week.
Welcome, everyone, to This Was the Scene, the podcast that takes a look back at the late 90s, early 2000 punk scene. I am your host, Mike Doyle. So this interview is going to be a bit different because I think a lot of people out there aren't really sure who Alex is. I think the thing that drew a lot of people to this interview was the fact that he was Midtown's Roadie. Now, the reason I love doing this podcast is because it's all about people's different perspectives about the scene back in the late 90s. So I've done record labels, recording studios, bands, roadies, show promoters, zines, and this one I love because Alex actually promoted a bunch of shows in Binghamton, New York with his buddy Steve Brown, who people referred to back then as Steve is Jewish. So we got to meet these guys back then, and Alex went on to move from being a show promoter in this sleepy little town in New York State to roading with Midtown, and nowadays he's the manager for the singer Lorde. I forget which episode I mentioned Alex in, but I was trying, if anyone remembers, I was trying to figure out who it was that he was managing, and it was Lorde. I thought it was someone else, but it was Lorde. I'm gonna just keep saying Lorde. Anyway, I reached out to Alex to ask him about his days touring for Midtown, and this interview is really long because it's some interviews I'm talking to people that I have never met, and I'm just trying to get to know them and talk to them about the scene and build a rapport and just talk casually, and I think it works a lot of times. But this one, I loved this interview so much when I was editing it because he has so many great stories about back then that I just kind of lost myself in these 2 hours listening as I'm like just chopping up sections and things like that and just doing my great audio job, which isn't great. But again, his stories are so good. And yeah, he talks about Midtown, but we talk a lot about Binghamton, and we talk about how we met just personally. It's all under this umbrella of what was happening in the scene back then. And so all of this is going to have mentions of diners and Jersey shows and being on the road with Midtown and just mentioning other bands that he became friends with. So it's really full of a lot of great stuff. So I really hope you enjoy it because I enjoyed the ever-loving shit out of it. So the things that you're going to learn in this interview, or the things that we talked about, are as follows. Managing Lorde, see, I said Lorde again. The new NoFX book, the Victory Records Incompatible and Go-Kart Records Double Exposure comps, Columbia House, booking shows in Binghamton, introducing Ben from Armor for Sleep to his wife, the movie life story, Buddyhead. Oh yeah, and by the way, if anyone has a connection to the guys who did Buddyhead, please email thiswasthescene@gmail.com because I would love to to interview them. Midtown flipping their van while on tour, I Surrender Records release of Lane Meyer's vinyl, Fall Out Boy, Lifetime putting their record on Decadence Records, even though I thought it was Decadence, Matt Redleader writing comic books now, talking shit about Midtown. That's many people have heard this one through other interviews, so we're just gonna kind of get his perspective of that whole debacle that I found myself in. Brian Fallon and a ton more. If you want to check out the new merch on thiswasthescene.com, please do so by going to that website. Buying merch really helps this thing stay alive because I do work for myself as a freelancer and I do a lot of side hustles. This is one of them, and the buying merch or donating or becoming a patron, it just helps with all of the overhead and the time. I think I figured out the other day that one interview takes me about 4 to 5 hours of my time just between the interviewing process, the editing, the promoting, and doing the intro and uploading, and there's a lot of steps. So I know a lot of people don't care about that crap, but it does help. So any donations are really welcome. Yeah. This week's episode is brought to you again by Neshaminy Creek Brewing Company, bringing the punk rock ruckus to liquid form, brewing up lip-smacking, palate-cracking IPAs and sours, robust dark beers, and a healthy mix of classic, easy drinkers. Neshaminy Creek beers are available in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, and Maryland. Neshaminy Creek will be celebrating their 7th anniversary tomorrow, Saturday, June 8th, with a free show at their main brewing facility and taproom in Croydon, PA. The show will be featuring Dave House, whatever. I don't know if I'm saying this fucking right. It's Dave from The Loved Ones. Modern Life is War, School Drugs, and Fire in the Radio. And again, thank you to all the people who have donated to the podcast and who are patrons. I really appreciate all that you've given and you're fantastic. And before I start this thing, if you have any suggestions of bands that you are connected with, or bands that you think I should talk to, or record labels I can talk to, I'm really trying to get in touch with Doghouse Records and Big Wheel, and who else am I trying to get in touch with? If you have any connections with any female bands from back then, like Tilt or Save Ferris or anything like that, definitely let me know as well. Feel free to subscribe, leave a review, and share this with anyone who would love some nostalgia. With that said, let's get started. I'm hitting record, but we can catch up real
Sure.
fast.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I feel like that's like your thing. You always like hit record and like you're like, hey, this hasn't started yet.
I
I've
thought
done my research. I like it.
I thought of that the other day, and I thought of how many there's actually a lot of interviews. There's a lot of stuff I cut out in the beginning where we'll talk, but some of it is so good in the beginning. I'm like, I have to keep this
Well,
because
when I asked you about a pre-interview, then I thought I'm like, usually the pre-interviews would probably end up being better than the actual interview, so you don't want to like blow your load kind of thing.
yeah, never want to blow your load, Alex.
I mean, yeah, it's like,
Ever. I mean,
yeah, I mean, like they do pre-interviews on like late night shows because they have to like ask like five things in like a very short amount of time, you know?
do
So
they
I get
really?
that. Yeah, always. Yeah. That's how like they know. Like, well, the host doesn't. Usually the producer does a
Oh,
pre-interview with like the talent so that, you know, then it's like, "Hey, I heard you like just recently broke your leg skiing." And they're like, "How did you know that?" Because they
yeah.
did a pre-interview. So, yeah, that's
Oh,
it's the
okay.
open curtain behind late night TV.
I guess you would know that because you're
Yeah.
very embedded in like the whole the scene, the behind the scenes of the big
The
uh
big business,
the
yes.
big B.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone I just told, like, it blew their mind. I just told them that they, like, tape Fallon at, like, 6 o'clock. And they're like, wait, what? It's not live? I'm like, The Tonight Show's never been live
That's
in the,
fucking
like,
stupid.
70 years.
What an idiot.
Like, they had no idea. Like, they just thought, you know, they had no idea. It's like,
I-
there's just,
yeah, actually, I'm always what was it? The what's Stephen Colbert?
yeah.
Every time I see his YouTube channel, I feel like that was um I feel like do they record that? What time do they record that? Because I feel like it always
It's
comes
in the
on
evening.
early.
It's in the evening and it comes on at 11:35 or whatever. But
But the
they
YouTube, I feel like do they post that early?
I'm not, to be honest, I'm not sure.
Okay,
I'm not sure.
we
But
can talk
like
about this
they
later.
they all film early in the after, like in the evening, and then but they also film. It's basically live to tape, so they film it with the commercial breaks like 2 minutes. There's no. It's not like a redo, so it's filmed live essentially. Like, you know, if somebody messes up, it's in the show basically. Like
Yeah,
it's
well, it should
they
be
film exactly to the hour with the commercials kind of thing. They don't like just edit it all together. They don't have time to edit it. It's like they get it and send it to the satellites and it goes. That's it. So
interesting.
And what do you live in North Carolina now?
Yeah, I'm in Raleigh.
Oh, awesome, awesome, sweet.
Yeah, are you in are you in the city?
Yeah, I live in Gramercy. Like right, I walk to work every day. Like it's
Okay,
yeah.
who is okay? In the interview I talked to, I think it was either Ricky's interview or someone prior to that. I was talking about you, and I brought up that you are managing. Was it Lord?
I manage Lord. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, and because I couldn't think of the name in the interview, and then someone ended up messaging on Instagram. They're like, "Was it Lord?" Like, so it's funny because people are
It wasn't Ricky because I just listened to that today, so it may have been Ben.
it. I think it. I think it was
But I
before
managed
Ben.
Armor for a while too.
Yeah, no, I think it was no, it was Jesus Christ, who was I forget. It was someone who it wasn't Heath Miller. It was like kind of recent, but that's what triggered me to like reach out to you. It was like, holy shit, because I mean, I remembered Binghamton, and then
Oh
I
yes.
I remembered, I mean, obviously that, but then I remembered like how you toured with Midtown, and that's how like what kind of got you like that
That
next
really
level.
kickstarted me. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So anyone listening, Alex, is it Sarti?
Yeah, Sarti, that's fine.
I, I
Sarti.
I'm shit with last names. Like I'm always afraid to say people's last names because I'm like gonna fucking murder it. So I just call people by their first name or like their name and band. But I still do like I think I sent something from John from Bigwig and I put John Bigwig on the envelope.
Dude, that's the punk rock way. Like I mean, the well, we can. I guess we'll talk about this in some way, but how I got into it all, or whatever. But I mean, Steve Brown,
Yeah,
who Steve is Jewish.
Jewish
Every,
Steve.
everyone called him Steve is Jewish. Like the movie life guys still call him that today.
So Steve, for everyone listening right now, Steve is mentioned in the Tom Bigwig episode because me and Tom were talking about Lane Meyer, my band Lane Meyer, and then Bigwig. We played a show. We had like a weekend, quote unquote, quote tour. It was a weekend. I guess I don't know what you call it. We went to Binghamton first, and then I forget we went afterwards. But we talked the story about how Steve had that videotape where it was like the Barbie dolls. Do you remember this?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. 100%.
I was telling that to Tom, and Tom was like, I don't think I remember this. I was like, how do you not remember? They had like made like a Barbie porno and they're playing it for us.
So somehow I kept like a log of shows
Get the
that
mic a little closer to your
oh,
face. Yeah,
is that better? Oh, sorry. So
yeah.
somehow I kept a log of shows like because like I was like into like Excel and shit like that because I was a nerd. So I kept a log of shows and stuff. So like I actually know the date you're talking about.
No shit.
February 11th, 2000. Bigwig, Lanemeyer, River City High, Shadywview Terrace at
Oh
the
my
East Coast
God.
Terminal in New York, yeah, up in Binghamton.
Was that in the it was the Legion Hall or was it in the
It,
warehouse?
in the basement of the skate park. That's where we would do the shows. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, there was a one. There
There
was
was a
one. Yeah, there
guys
was.
the first show Steve ever, but we should, I guess, I mean, should we just, are we in this right now?
Yeah, I mean, we can. We'll just kind of. Actually, we'll talk about this a little bit because I think people because this is like the whole podcast. Everyone listening is obviously gets that it's a mix of either bands or labels you know of, and then there's all the people that were behind the scenes and doing all the shit who actually made careers about it. And I've talked about this so many times where a lot of the bands or majority of the bands I talk to or I know in general or know of from back then didn't really make a career of that. And Alex ended up starting off in the scene with like doing shows and then became basically the tour manager, or was you tour manager or roadie for Midtown?
I mean, I was the only crew guy. Like, so I did anything and everything. Like, I sold merch, I helped load in. Like, I don't know anything about teching at all, but I would just help, like, set up shit on stage, like, just wheel it on stage. I sold merch. Like, Gabe would taught me how to help settle shows and stuff. Like, I learned, I did everything. Like, I was legit the only crew guy, and I got paid $0 a week.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, they didn't have any money. Like I got per diems every
Wow.
day. I think we got like either $5 or $10 per diem. And then at the end of my first tour, they gave me like I want to say like $300. And I was
Wow.
like, oh my god, like I
I
got a lot of money.
I am
Like
here.
wow, yeah. I'm like whoa, $300. I mean, I was only, I mean, there's just like, they couldn't afford to, you know? The first tour they did with me it was Midtown and Weston. And then we had like a rotating third band with us. I think like Juliana Theory was on some, Hot Rod Circuit was on some, and I want to say like maybe one other band. Like it was just like maybe like a local band in some places.
Yeah.
Um, but it was just like, I mean, dude, we played some like disaster shows.
Yeah. I mean,
I mean,
we'll definitely.
this was like fall of 2000. So it's like, you know, Save the World is out, but it's like, it's definitely not setting the world on fire. And it's like, you know, there was like, I remember there's a show in like North Carolina at a skate park. There was like four people there.
Yeah. I mean, I
It
think
was like,
everyone
yeah,
always ran into that shit.
yeah. But it's
Um,
funny because like in Jersey, you know, there was this vibe of like Midtown, they're on drive through. It's like fucking MCA, so, like they're fucking huge and all that. It's just like, I mean, not really.
I love people's perceptions about what they think is really going on, and then there's the truth of what's really going on.
Yeah. Yes.
Especially people are really interested always in financial shit.
Yes.
And I actually just finished listening to the NoFX book.
Oh, dude, it's phenomenal.
It's it starts off like really dark and then it dips in and out of super darkness, but it gets
Yeah.
like it talks about like their history and like
Yes.
growing up and Melvin being molested and like all this shit. And then it gets
Dude.
into like the No Effects history, which is dope. But then when they talked about the financial stuff, I was like, wow, like that's where we were kind of right, where they were
Oh yeah.
killing it.
Dude, how about the fact like that one where it's like I've never even told my band the story, like
Yeah.
sorry guys or whatever. I'm like, oh God, this is fucking aw. Have you ever
Yeah.
seen the Fuse show that they
Yeah. Oh,
did?
hell yeah.
Oh
The
yeah, that's like must watch for anybody that's ever been in a band or toured. It's like
yeah,
the most fucked up thing.
it's
Yeah.
on YouTube too, and they
Yeah.
talk about that whole thing of how they set that up, and I mean, just when they were talking about like Punk and Drublic and just the records, and then the Punk voter, I'm like, wow, this is so fucking cool hearing this shit.
I'm a big NoFX guy. That was like one of my favorite first underground bands that was like not on MTV. That was like one of my first favorite bands in that like in the scene or whatever. Like I was a huge NoFX fan. Like,
Yeah,
um,
I actually have never purchased a NoFX album.
oh crazy,
I always, I think, I mean, the albums that I did buy like Actually, I just bought three of Face to Face, first three Face to Face albums I just bought on vinyl over Christmas from Fat Records.
crazy.
Yeah.
See, I was never a face to face guy
Oh
for
man.
whatever reason. I just never got into them. But like no effects. Oh my God. But I always felt like you were like more of like an old school emo guy. Like you like were into like and when I mean emo, like real emo, not
Uh-huh.
like mall punk emo, like Sunny Day and that kind of stuff. Like
Oh
you were
yeah.
always into like cool shit that was like I was like not cool enough to figure out what it
I'm
was.
because I'm a pretty cool guy, Alex. I don't know if you
Well there you go,
noticed.
yeah. But like I just remember that like just from like we would just hang or whatever at shows and I was just like learning. I just remember like you taught me about a bunch of different bands that
Oh, that's awesome.
I'd only like heard of and I was like, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about. I'm gonna check them out. And I would check out Sunny Day and I think you told me about um fuck, what is the name of that band? I'm drawing a blank right now. But you
Well,
told me like about a bunch of bands and I was like, oh sweet, like this is awesome.
well, I mean, like I got into that. I mean, everything I got into is because of Barker and all my buddies. That's why I never had to buy a No Effects album, or I mean, there's just so many albums that I never had to buy because Chris would always have that playing in his car, or my buddy Bob or Heiner, like they would have them playing in their cars. I'm like, this is great. I don't have to buy this shit. So I would go off. But when the albums came through, that I'm like, I can't not have this. And that's when it was like
Yeah.
Mineral and
Yes, Mineral. That's the band. That you got me into Mineral.
yeah,
That's the, Mineral and Sunny Day were like the bands where you were like, you got to listen to these bands because I had only heard them. It's like, I you didn't have the internet. It was like you listen, like if somebody you knew that you were friends with told you about something, you took their word as gospel and you tried to find it and check it out. Or like, I mean,
yeah.
dude, I mean, we found about Steve found about Lanemeyer from the Victory comp.
The
It was like I don't remember the name of it, but there was
yeah,
a comp that you and me on the big screen was on a comp, and we would just buy comps because it would be like that's how we would find bands. Like, oh, cool, like let's just buy a comp because they were like $3. We didn't have any money. Like we're like 16. It's like no, we don't have a job yet. So it was like okay, and then we heard that and we're like, holy shit, this song's fucking awesome.
that's awesome.
I mean, like, and we didn't even know where you guys were from. We were just like, oh, this band's awesome.
Then that
Like,
was like the weird thing too when you heard a band on an album like that. I would always when I listen to compilations. I remember I was talking to oh my God, it was a recent interview. I forget. It was the like Fearless comp. Fearless did a lot of comps,
oh yeah, yeah.
and all those bands, even though some of them were kind of local, I just thought they were these huge bands because they were on this compilation with Bigwig and
A thousand
Blunt.
percent.
Yeah. And actually, the Victory comp that we were on, I forget the name. I think it's like start with an in. God damn it, Sean will notice. The reason we were so excited to be in on that, like one, because it was Victory and they had like a huge name, and then the second was it's actually an interactive. It was an interactive
Yes, that's what it was.
compilation.
That was the one. It was the interactive one. That's a thousand. That is the one. That's how we heard about you guys.
Yeah,
And we're like, oh, this band's awesome.
yeah, we lucked out that summer because we got on that, and then we got in the double exposure go kart comp at the same
Oh
time.
yeah, I remember that too. That had like John Cougar concentration camp and like all these other crazy go kart bands. And then you guys were just like odd man out, but it was awesome.
Yeah, we were just like, how the fuck did we get on here?
I
Yeah,
wish I could remember the name of that fucking comp.
it's
It's pissing.
incompatible. Incompatible.
Yes, that's what it is.
Yeah,
Yes,
that
it
was
was
it.
like punk uprisings or something like that.
Yep. Oh, Punk
Yeah,
Uprisings. Yeah, that was the label that Matt had started with. I forget her name, and then he went off and did Red Leader
but how did like
after that.
Victory have a punk uprisings comp? I don't even understand how that worked. But
Yeah, I didn't even know
well,
what was like the collaborations back then, but I was really bummed too because we were asked to put like a video or give him pictures or something, and then I remember all the other bands had cool shit, and we had some like crap landing page or something that just popped up, and I was like, God damn it, like we
but
really
that's
fucked
I
this up.
mean I mean that comp legit. I mean that changed my life in a way. It's like that's how Steve found out about you guys, and the first show he ever booked was you guys played the show.
Okay, so I want to go back. I want to
Yes,
so as you know, as I structure everything, I want to get
yes,
people to know Alex here because Alex
yes,
is stayed in the music industry and he's made a living
yes,
off of it. So you're working for Crush, or you've
yes.
worked for Crush for a very long time, right?
So I've started working for Crush in January of 2006.
Okay.
Um, so what is that? 13 years? Yeah, a long time. And then so right now I manage Lord with my boss Jonathan, and I manage a singer-songwriter named Matt Nathanson. And then over the years, I've managed Armor for Sleep. The Academy is Cobra Starship, which is Gabe's band after Midtown, so that all came full circle for me. And then like I helped manage the Bronx when I first started.
Oh wow.
And this band called New Politics. They're from Denmark. They were on. They're still a band right now. We actually just stopped working with them a little bit ago. But um, I'm sure I'm missing somebody else. But yeah, that's like those are like my bands that I managed.
So
Um,
so I reached out to Alex because I was very I just think I felt like he's got so much to talk about. Plus he's from that late 90s scene, and but
yeah,
his viewpoint was putting on shows and then roadieing slash managing bands, and then that turned into not knowing what to do with just pushing amps onto a stage apparently to going on
yes,
world tours with Lord. And but like I love seeing everyone's what they saw, like everyone from the outside what they saw. And but I think that like I as I do every episode just to
yeah,
connect everyone is just to go back and talk about like when you were a kid and like what got you into music and then how did that transition to punk rock?
yeah. So I mean, I was always into music. My first band I ever loved was the Beach Boys. Um, I just loved like the pop. Just I would listen to my parents had a record like it was Endless Summers, like a compilation, the greatest hits, and I would listen to it over and over again. And then I was just like I was always just into music, and I would you know find a way to get the penny CD shit to get like 10 CDs for $1 and try to cancel and all that stuff.
Oh my God, I remember
The
that.
90s. Yeah, yeah. I was
Yeah,
like, I got to get more CDs. This is the best way to do it. Because I mean, I had
Columbia
the,
House. Yeah.
yeah, Columbia House, and there was one other one. I can't remember the other one. But you would like trade off, and then you would try to cancel, and then they would like try to get you to come back, and you would like try to use a different credit card or whatever. It was always like some scam. Um,
We all did that too.
yeah, I mean, because like 20 CDs for $1, but then you're in a subscription for a year, you're like screwed. But it
Yep.
still worked out in a good way. And I would like tape songs off the radio and edit out the commercials and stuff just because like that was just you listen to tapes and stuff. And then when it came to like punk shit, like I actually stole Dookie from Kmart in seventh or eighth grade.
That's pretty punk rock.
Um, yeah, which ironically we manage Green Day now. I don't, but Crush does.
Oh wow. Jesus.
And
Wow.
I also remember getting the Blue album from Weezer, which we also manage Weezer now, which is also hilarious. Like I got them around the same time, but I didn't steal the Blue album. I stole Dookie, um, and I just like was like, this is so like it blew my mind like to a different level, and I just kind of progressed from there, where I was like, Offspring was getting big, and like they were on MTV a lot, but and I, it was very like it was just like, oh wow. Then you saw like Rancid was on MTV, and you're like, what the fuck? This is insane. Like, how is this on TV? Like, and I would remember because like we would record 120 minutes. It
Yeah.
was on MTV at like midnight on Sunday, and I would record it with my parents' VHS player, and I would watch it after school the next day, and that's how you would find bands. And then I started getting kind of into like punk bands, and basically I would just like read the liner notes and look at the thank yous, and be like, oh, like this band thanked this band, so like they're probably good or whatever, and like you would then I would like try to find like a comp for that label that they were on. It's like Green Day thanked, fucking the Queers and Screeching Weasel and Mr. T Experience, and like, oh, they're all on Lookout, and they put out a record on Lookout. Like Lookout must be awesome, so like
Yeah.
find a Lookout CD, and like so I got into like Lookout bands.
Do you
And
find it, just real quick, do you find it funny that, because out of all these interviews I've done, it sounds like everyone got into, like when everyone got in these bands, everyone just knew to just look at the thank you list and go see who that was. It's almost like the Nintendo trick back then.
yeah,
None of us had internet, or there wasn't like a commercial showing us that you blow on this cartridge and then slam it up and down and it starts working.
yeah,
Like there was something where people just instinctually like just knew to do these things, and that's everyone talks about that. Yeah, well, I don't know, I looked at the thank you list and started seeing who they liked, so I figured I'd like them because they might sound the same.
yeah. And like they were like, oh, they're friends with these guys. Like they must be good. Like, and a lot of times it like was real bad.
That
Like
was
they would
that
think like,
that was the funniest thing when it was such shit. Like I remember Barker he would buy like every one of them, and they'd be like it was one, I think it was like Doc Hopper was one of
oh yeah,
them.
yeah.
And I mean
Oh, Doc Hopper, yeah. Oh
yeah,
fuck, dude, J Church and like fucking. I mean, there are
so
so many bands.
some
I mean,
people will be huge, like some people were diehard J Church fans, so there's
yeah,
definitely a
they,
divide
they
in
were
people
all
looking
or
at it.
nothing band for sure. Like
Yeah.
I never got them. Like I tried to like them because everyone like that liked them I thought was cool, but they were just not. I just never liked them. Like
Yeah.
I there was a point where like you kind of have this like you want to listen to cool shit, and then you finally come to a point where you're like, I'm just gonna like what I like. I don't really give a shit.
Yeah.
It's like I like what I like. It is what it is. I don't care. But
Describe what Binghamton was like growing up for like anyone listening.
it's a
For the
very
audience.
yeah. So Binghamton is it's in like a valley. It has more cloudy days than Seattle. It's like a really depressing town. The IBM started there. So when I was a kid, IBM was booming, and we had a shoe store, like a shoe company called Endicott Johnson, which was a national thing. It was big. It's almost like a Rust Belt kind of city, and it's become more and more depressing as the years have gone by, both like just because of it sucks there, and because like industry just kind of left. So
Yeah.
there's just like a lot of it's kind of like a smaller Pittsburgh or Buffalo, but like those cities were big enough that they kind of had like an art rejuvenation, so to speak. Detroit's like that, and Pittsburgh, and Binghamton kind of just hasn't really. It's kind of like my parents still live there, and like a handful of my friends, but
Yeah.
to me it's like a real depressing place, and it's just like, oh
It
god.
reminds me of Wilkes-Barre.
It's very similar to Wilkes-Barre. Well,
Yeah.
Wilkes-Barre is what you would
Or
call it, but
Wilkes-Barre.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's like Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, but Scranton, Wilkes-Barre is bigger, so it's like not as shitty. And Syracuse is bigger, and Binghamton's like right in the middle, so it's like it's got nothing of the good parts of those cities and everything bad about those cities. So it's just like a depressing, like literally it's cloudy all the time. It's awful. Like the way that city just is like it's just in this valley, and the cloud just gets stuck there. So it's just like a real depressing place.
So what was it like? So I'm just trying to visualize growing up there because that's, I mean,
I mean, you
kids.
didn't know, I didn't know any better. So it's like it was like I didn't have a shitty experience growing up. Looking back, I'm like, oh man, Binghamton sucked.
Yeah,
But
but there's
I had a
something
good
about
time.
there's
It's like
something about a town that you grow up in that makes you as a kid, because you don't have resources to get and to do a lot of stuff. You have
yeah,
a bike and your parents' car when
yeah,
they're home from
yes,
work or on the weekend. So
right.
like like around that town, like what did you guys do? Like did you get involved in like skating? Like what led you to going to shows?
Yeah. Well, Steve. Um, and we were really good friends. We started being friends when we were 3, and then we kind of stopped being friends a little bit because of like whatever, like people just like I don't know, it just
Life.
shit happens, you know. And
Yeah.
then we kind of became reacquainted in like early high school, and he was like talking about band, like we were in I forget, I think we were in biology class, and like he kind of knew that I was into like punk music and but more like mainstream stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So he was just like oh, let me make you like a CD or whatever, and he would just like make me burn me a CD or like loan me CDs, and we became really close again. And Steve was in a band, was like doing shows. He's like, oh, you should come to a show, and I'm like, oh, that sounds awesome. So I just went to a show with him, and like I knew a bunch of people there from school, but there were like all these other kids that were similar at the shows. And I'm like, oh, this is fucking awesome. Like, it just like like blew my mind. I was probably 15, 14, something like that.
Okay.
Maybe I think 15, maybe Steve was 16 and he like had his parents' car so he could drive and I couldn't. So I went with him. Um, but then, so then like we would just go, like, we came closer and closer, than like we were like became like basically best friends. Um, and we would just like go to shows, like we would go to Syracuse to shows, or we'd go to Wilkes-Barre or Scranton, and then we'd be like, oh, look at this band playing in Jersey. We try and then, and basically Steve was like, I'm gonna book a show. And honestly, the reason he started and is because like it was just like easier than driving. It's like
Interesting.
we could drive 2 hours, or we could just like see what bands we could just get to come play here. So it's like after a while, it sucks to drive to Syracuse an hour and 10 minutes and then drive back. After like at like 11 p.m. or whatever. And like we would go to Jersey like all the way to Wayne and shit, and it's like 2 to 2.5
Wow.
hours. We would drive back at like we would like go hang out with you guys at and fucking eat at a diner and like leave at like midnight and drive home and
I
like get
do
home at
remember
3 a.m.
that. I
Yeah,
remember you guys would be leaving at like 12 or 1 or something. I'm
yeah.
like,
We would
Jesus,
just
dude.
drive home. Yeah, it's like, but that's because of like it was just like, oh, there's shows. But that was more like after we became like friends with everybody, and we would just like kind of like we would flyers down there and like became friends with Ricky and all that stuff. But I'm jumping ahead a little,
That's okay.
but
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 it's like what I mean, I love it though because I think a lot of times just people in general, they do things based on like a what's the word I'm thinking of? Like a discomfort.
convenience.
Yeah, no, yeah. Oh, well, it's like they're kind of like, man, this sucks. I want to make this easier. So
Yeah,
why don't I do something that's not easy and book a show, which that is not, but that became easier than, dude, I don't want to drive fucking 2 hours to go see bands that I like. Like,
yeah.
let's
It's like,
bring
oh
them
man, why
here.
don't we just have like let's have bands come here. Like we know that because like there were local shows, and we knew that there was like a lot of kids. So it wasn't like we're just doing this and like no one's gonna come. Like we knew that kids would come to shows because like there was already kids coming to like if they're gonna come see like these not very good local bands, like what happens when they get like a real band or
Mm,
whatever, like or our perception of a real band. So it's like, yeah, let's do it. And I remember the first show. So the first show Steve ever booked
yeah.
was Weston, Cooter, and you guys. It was at this place called the Strike Zone.
Oh my
And
God, yes.
yeah,
Holy shit, that was next to the strip
yeah,
club.
yeah, that's right, next to the strip club.
Yeah, we did talk about that in an episode. Go on.
Yeah, and that was the first, and he booked you guys. He found you guys because of the comp,
Uh-huh.
and Weston and Cooter. Well, Rob from Cooter was from Binghamton, um,
That's
the
right.
bass player, and he was in a band with our friend Mike before that called 607. And Mike's actually gone. Mike Escott, he's actually gone on. He like does merch for Dashboard. Like he's been on the road for years. Like he's a Binghamton kid.
Wow. You
Um,
guys really wanted to get the hell out of that town and go big
Yeah,
time.
yeah, exactly. I think he might live there still, but he's like goes on tour all the time still.
Damn.
Um, but that was the first show we ever booked.
Dude,
Um,
I gotta stop you there because I can remember vividly that show. That was the first time we had the song "Broken Dream November" that's on the end. That's at the end of "If There's a Will," our last
yes,
CD, and
yes,
that we had it was me, Chris. Patino, my buddy Dave, who was a couple interviews ago, he was on drums, and then Andy, so me and Chris had a band called Conquers a Cow before Lanemeyer, and then Andy
Yes,
played in that. So this all happened after Sean had left the band because we got Dave in the band after Sean quit, and then there was a three piece. We got Andy, but in that song there's this like or no this like this like guitar riff that Andy created. So I remember the reason I'm telling this is because I was so pumped up to play that song that when we played that show, I remember it was you walked in and it was super dark, but it was kind of narrow, and the stage was all the way in the back
that's right.
and the
That's
band merch was on
100% right.
the right, right? All the band
Yep.
merch on the right. And
That place was hilarious because like it was like a shitty bar,
yeah,
and the locals would just like hang out there even during the punk shows. Like they just like didn't care. It was like super loud, and you're like, there's 1,000 bars. Like why would you just not go to another bar? Like you're just like that lazy. It's hilarious.
it's like the Legion halls where guys would just be sitting there
Yeah.
like, "Oh, this is kind of good music." Or like,
Yeah.
oh yeah."
Like these people like they like didn't even like it. They were like, this is awful. I'm like, why are you here?
Well, that's
Like,
why they're there. They're miserable and they're
yeah.
like, "This is
Yeah.
awful. I want to be
Yeah,
here
that's
and
wait,
hate life."
but hold on a second, because Sean was definitely in the band then. Or is that just like
No, no.
no
Sean was out because he had quit the third tour, and we came
no,
back.
but this was early. This was in '99, the
Yeah.
first
Oh yeah,
show.
dude. We were only a
But
band
did
for like
Sean
two and a half
come back?
years. Yeah.
Oh, he came back. Oh, okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah, because we wrote a couple songs without Sean, and that song was one of them.
Oh, okay, okay.
And I remember we played that show, and I just remember it vividly because we went fucking like off during that song because we were so fired up, and I just remember that. I mean, there's no significance to anybody else, but just for me, it just show specifically was the first time we played that song, and just being like the amount of energy we put into that song. I was like, wow, we're like going into like a different place with
We
the
lost our
shit.
mind when you guys played because we
That's
had only
awesome.
really heard one song. But we were like, this song rules. But we thought you guys were like the greatest band ever. It was like the
That's
fucking
awesome.
coolest. Like, oh my god, this band fucking rules. It's so awesome. Like all of our friends, like we all bought the EP. Like we all like lost our mind.
Yeah, we loved Binghamton, man. You guys
Yeah,
were one of our favorite places to play because you guys were always really nice, and there was all the shows were so packed.
yeah, because kids were bored as fuck there.
Yeah, that's
Like
why.
literally, and like no one, honestly, like again, like there was no shows that were like with bands outside of local bands. There was always local bands, like, and the local scene was always super strong. But it was like, oh, man, I would love to see like this is so funny because so we were seniors in high school when we put that show on. We were gonna graduate in a couple months from then.
Okay.
This is an amazing story. I actually
Yeah.
just talked to Steve about this. So we have literally no, like I hadn't even helped start booking shows with Steve. This is his first show. He's like, I'm gonna do a show. And I remember Steve got called to our principal's office and I went with him. And we got kind of like, first off, I was like, we fucked around a lot. So I was like, oh fuck, what happened now? Like, what do we do now? Kind of thing, that kind of move. Like, what did I get caught doing, or what did
Yeah.
he get caught doing? Not like, what did we do? Because we're always doing shit. So he got called to the office, and they had said, you can't get personal faxes here, because Weston had a booking agent, and the only fax number we knew was the school's. So he like gave them the school's fax number, and they faxed like their contract and rider to Steve, and we were like, we had never heard of a rider, nothing, like no clue what's going on. Like I remember going with him, and so I remember, and I just reminded him of this because he didn't remember this. I remember he took out a Sharpie, he circled the water on the rider and put an X through everything else and faxed it back. Because like we're like, what is this, like a deli tray? Like I don't know what this is. It's like they had like a real, like in a book that Weston was kind of big. It was
Yeah.
'99. Like, and we're like, we don't, like, what the fuck?
That's
Yeah,
like
we have
when
no idea.
Matinee came out, right?
It was, wait, was Matinee the Mojo record? No, that was
Oh,
Go Kart.
yeah, Mojo.
No,
Yeah.
Mojo hadn't come out yet. This was the, like they were still like Go Kart kind of
Okay.
Weston, like, but they were like a big band for us. Like we're like, whoa, Weston, like what the fuck?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
Cooter was kind of a big band, but not like, we didn't view them as a big band just because of like they were our, like Rob was from. They felt more of like a local band that got big versus like a big band coming to Binghamton, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I totally get that.
That's so yeah, so that's kind of like that was the first show. You guys played the first show, and then like Steve's like, "Do you want to help me do this?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll help you," because I was like, "What the fuck?" And then our friend Carla helped us as well, so it was like three of us, and we just like booked shows. Like
How
that was
did you guys find that skate park?
skate park.
Because the first show was at that bar, and then
Strike
after
Zone,
that,
yeah. So we booked
that was
shows
it.
at the Strike Zone for I think
Strike
I
Zone.
would say like 4 or 5 months because that was like the local venue that like other bands had always like other people did shows and they did them at the Strike Zone. And I honestly don't remember exactly. Steve will probably know, but I think like he had just like somebody had mentioned it and like I think he just went and talked to the owner and was like it had just opened up and he was like, "Yeah, I have like a basement like that's like you guys can try to like bring in a PA." And like I think we just like our friend Frank had a PA and we just like um somebody built like a 6 inch high stage and put carpet on it
Yeah.
and that, I mean that was it and it was just like it was easy to do um and it was like, oh sweet, we don't have to deal with like these assholes at this bar anymore. And like we'd always have to do like a lot of matinees at the Strike Zone because there was like drinking laws after a certain time and all this shit. And it was like it was just messy. But at the skate park, it was like a very all ages friendly kind of place, and it just kind of like the skate punk thing kind of all just worked out. And there were separate entrances, so like nobody had to worry about like walking through the skate park and make it a fucking disaster of that.
Yeah, and the
They kind of ran into
crazy,
this huge thing.
the
Yeah, yeah.
elevator, yeah.
Yeah, that crazy elevator. Yeah, I mean, it was like it was definitely not a safe place, or it had no up to code. Like nowadays, that would never exist because it was like a shitty basement with like he had like a curtained off area. There was just like industrial shit behind it in the
Yep.
warehouse. And it was like it was definitely not safe. Like there was no bathroom that was even remotely acceptable. It was, I mean, it's hilarious.
Yeah, it was a giant shithole, but it was so much fun to
Yeah,
play there. Because it
you
was
guys
like,
think
well,
a lot.
the backstage was also accessible. The backstage was just you walked by it as you went
Yeah,
into the area, not even the room, the area where there was
yeah,
a wall with a stage, and then the crowd would be, and
yeah,
the merch tables would be there. But like you'd come down that elevator, the stairs, and walk by the bands just like
yeah.
stringing their guitars and putting their amps and shit in the
Yeah, they were
back.
in that little like room. It was like an office kind of room or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, totally. But it was like, yeah, I mean the elevator, like it was sweet. Like you didn't have to fucking carry your shit up and down the stairs, and like it was just like it worked. And we always had the line go up the stairs of people, and we
hmm
just like, and like we just legit. I mean, we never took any money. We just like we would charge, we would pay the bands, and we would just take enough money to buy flyers for the next show, and that was it. Like that was all we and like we would just try to give the bands as much money as we could, and we were because like it was basically like, hey, I get to watch this show for free instead of pay, sweet, and I don't have to drive 3 hours. Like this is the best day ever.
That's
Like I don't have
amazing.
to. I mean, that was like so that's how I met Midtown because
Okay, yeah,
so Steve I think got a comp with Midtown on it, and I think he called drive through or somebody. I think he might have called Richard, and or he called Gabe or somebody, and Rob Hitt called him back. Um, and Rob Hitt, who's been mentioned on this podcast, I think like 1,000 times,
yep.
which also by history, I can do a quick sidetrack. Rob and I own a record label with our friend Gabby called I Surrender Records, and we put out your vinyl reissue
That's
among
right.
many other things.
Yeah, man.
But um,
A year ago, dude.
get a good plug in there. Yes, a year ago, which I missed your show and I'm very sad about. I'm
Yeah, I
sorry.
was pretty bummed about that. I'm like, why
I
the
was
fuck are you
really
not
bummed.
there?
I was in Kuala Lumpur.
That was because I think Rob said that. He goes, "Oh, he's in like some country on a lore tour or something." I'm like, "Well, tell him
Yeah,
you fucking get back here. This is shit ain't
yeah.
happening again."
She was headlining this huge festival in Australia, so I went down for that, and then just hung for like she had a couple other festivals that weekend.
I'm
But
sure it was okay.
yeah, I mean it was crazy. I'd never been to Australia before, but I definitely was bummed that I was like, I kind of hope you guys do another show. Hint, hint,
Nah,
so
man.
I
I
can
don't.
kind
Yeah, go on.
of yeah.
Anyway,
For my own narcissism, I want to like be able to see you guys.
there's a video online. It's pretty good. You should watch it.
I saw I watched it, but I
Um,
did want it, I wanted it, but I was yeah, but I'll
Well,
actually have one more side thing. It's just really funny.
yeah, man. Any stories you could tell, man. I love
So
stories.
when I met Ella Lord, so her co-writer is Jack Antonoff.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that she co-wrote her last record, Melodrama, with Jack.
Jesus.
Um, so I hadn't met her yet. My boss Jonathan was talking to her and her parents, and I was at I forget where I was at, but I hadn't met her before, and I went, and Jack was there, and Jack I hadn't seen him in 10, 15 years, something like that, and he was like, "Oh my God, it's so good to see you," and Ella was like, "Oh my God, you're Alex. I've heard so much about you." Blah blah blah. Ella's Lord, um, and she's like, "How do you guys know each other?" And
Oh, wow.
so Jack and I tried to explain in like 2 minutes what like a VFW was to like a kid that's 20 or she was 19 at the time from New Zealand that was just like she's like wait what
Oh,
like it was
wow.
hilarious like I was just like yeah like punk shows at like a like kind of like an Elks slot but and she has like no idea what any of this stuff is because it's like just doesn't exist and it's
That's hilarious.
like I think I met Jack in like 1999 maybe I don't know she was like holy crap so that's a funny
Wait,
little
was that when he was in Outline, or was that when they were doing Steel Train?
oh no I met him when he was in Outline for sure
Wow.
yeah I definitely knew him when he was in Outline because he was just like a kid that hung around because Eric was in Outline Gabe's brother
Yeah.
Gabe and Ricky's brother
Yep.
um because they would just play shows like especially when I was on tour at Midtown and I would stay at Gabe's house like all the time because we would do shows with Midtown in like the Northeast, and to save money, we would drive to Albany and drive back to Gabe's house, and I would stay there. And then the next morning, we would get up and drive to Allentown and go back at the after the show because we didn't have any money, so we try to save as much money as possible. So like I got to know Gabe and Ricky. Well, I mean, I already knew Ricky and Gabe, but his whole family, like just because I would literally like be like the guy that just slept in one of the bedrooms in the basement for like a week straight.
Did you like when you were doing the like putting on the shows and shit with Steve,
Yeah,
did you kind of get, because obviously it led you to where you are now,
yeah.
and did you have an inkling when you're putting shows on, like either one or two things? One is I just need to do something in my life that gets me the fuck out of this town, so I don't care what it is, so I'll jump in a van with these guys, or or was it I really want to do this potentially for a living, because I
Mm,
enjoy this, like what was it?
it was definitely more of the first. Like I definitely wanted to get out of there and do something. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was 17 or 18. Um, this is so the reason I went on tour was I had graduated high school. I had no idea what the hell I was going to do. I didn't care about like I went to community college for 2 semesters, like just total like no idea what I'm going to do with my life kind of thing. And we're just booking shows and like I have a shitty job at like a call center or whatever. Um, my dad forgot to mail my tuition check in time for my community college, and it was fine. Like basically, like you just like what sucked about it was I got deregistered from my classes that I wanted to take. So by the time the check would go in, I would basically have had to take all these shitty classes that I didn't want to take. And Rob had asked me like a couple weeks before, "Hey, do you want to go on tour? We need like a guy. Like we need somebody to help us out, Like we're doing everything ourselves. We have no crew guys. Like would you ever want to do that, Because Rob and I became really good friends. Um he was still in school when the Midtown had done their first tour. And he was always like in his computer lab on Instant Messenger, and we would just chat and stuff because we would go to their shows and hang out, and we had booked them and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
we became really good friends with those guys. And Rob in particular, he would just IM with Steve and I because Rob would work in his computer lab at Rutgers while the other guys were on tour because he had like his dad had to pay for college up until a certain age, so he like stayed in school one extra semester to try to graduate. And while the guys took Stuart on tour as their drummer, Stuart, one cool guy, Stuart was their
Yeah.
drummer for like a tour. So Rob would always be home, and like we would just became like really good friends. Like we just talked all the time, just whatever, bullshitting.
So
So
he'd
Rob,
like, yeah, so okay, so go on.
yeah, so Rob asked me like, "Hey, do you want to go on tour?" And I was like, "No, I can't, man. Like I got college, blah blah blah." So then my dad did that, and I was like, "Hey, do you still need someone?" He's like, "Yeah, we have no one." Like, like, do you want to go on tour? And I was like, "Yeah, I'm in." I told my parents, I can't believe my parents were like, "Yeah, that's okay. You can take a semester off. Like, go ahead," kind of thing,
Wow.
because like my dad felt bad.
You're like, fate'll have it, or a
Yeah, I mean,
circumstance will have it that
it
I
just
just have
worked
some
out.
time.
Yeah, and I
That's
like,
crazy, dude. That's
yeah,
so
yeah.
like how crazy of a moment is that, or
So
that a time where that just shot you
there's
in
a
this
couple moments
direction.
in my life that are like that where I just have like I can't believe that happened kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, but the funny thing is, Sean actually asked me to go on tour like with you guys like a couple months before,
I think I remember that
and I
actually.
told him no, and then Rob asked me, I told him no, and then like it just happened to be like it was like, hey, like I think you guys were off or something, and I was like, Rob was like, I was just like the first person I thought like, hey, can I go on tour with you guys still? And he was like, yeah, and it like the tour started like 10 days later. It was with the tour Weston, like it was just like, okay, I'm in.
Honestly, dude, like I think, I mean, obviously, you definitely made the better decision because we were, I mean, I talk it up a lot that we were a big pain in the ass, and we were. I mean, we had moments where we were fine, but man, we were always so just like not fisticuffs, but we were just always just like clashing in some way. So I'm glad that you actually weren't able to go on tour with us because I think out of all the road, I don't think we ever had a roadie that was consistent. Like they never came back on for whatever reason. I don't think it was because they hated us, but it was very like it got tense a lot. And I think you going with Midtown was a lot better because I think they were a lot more like put together, I guess.
Yeah, I
And
mean that they
yeah,
had like a real tour booked and stuff. That was, I mean, that
yeah,
was really it. Like you guys were like, I think I even asked Sean
we were
like,
scrapping
and
it together, man.
yeah, you guys were just like, oh, we're not really doing anything, and I'm like, okay, like this is my like I got nothing else going on. Like, oh shit, I can go all the way to Florida and back, like in a van, like sweet, like
Yeah, fuck
whatever,
yeah, yeah.
like okay, yeah, like cool, like whatever, like I get to go see like bands I like for and get paid, or I mean, I thought I was like I didn't think I was gonna get paid, I knew I wasn't, but I got like per diems and like I wasn't losing money. I'm like, okay, sweet.
What happened at this point with the all the local shows with Steve? When you went on
Steve,
tour,
well,
was he kind of like,
Steve,
oh fuck, dude, or he was like, oh, that's
no,
awesome?
no, no, he didn't care. No, he still booked them, and like I would be home in between and help him out still. Like it was whatever. Like, I mean, Steve only had like we stopped booking shows the following summer because we lost the skate park, and he ended up going like he finished community college because he actually didn't take time off like I did. So he went to New Paltz and he was like, I'm done, kind of thing. When he was done, I was done because I was like knee deep in going on tour and stuff like that. So it was just like kind of just fizzled out. We lost the skate park. This kid like put on a show there, and like another kid like the guy was we weren't like exclusive. Like there was a bunch of kids that would do shows there, but a kid did like a show, and like it was like he did a bunch of damage, and he was like this really shitty punk kid, and like we were. I'll actually never. So, do you remember the band called De La Hoya?
Yeah, I
Okay,
know. I
so
never saw them, but I heard of
yeah,
them.
so they were playing a show, and um, this was actually the last show we ever did at the skate park because the owner guy, came down and was like, "Hey, you guys owe us all this money from like the damage from this other show last week." We're like, Steve and I were like, "We didn't fucking even do this show," and like the De La Hoya guys actually overheard them, and they like wouldn't take money
Oh
from
wow.
like, and we were like, we're actually like, no, fuck you, take the money, like we're never gonna do a show with this guy again, so fuck him. So that's like, but yeah, it was a show like I think it was like in July of 2000. So it was just like no, fuck this. So that was actually right before I went on tour. So it was
Okay.
actually kind of all worked out. Like Steve went away to college, and I just like and like there were still some shows like that he did. I think the last real show he did was Shy Halud. It was at a different venue, and I think Shady View played. Um,
I
it
think
was like huge.
I could swear we played another show in Binghamton that wasn't at the skate park. It was at a hall.
Yes, you
Yeah.
played. I think at like it was like an American Legion or something like
Yeah.
that. But yeah, I don't think we booked it though. It was somebody else must have because
Oh
we were
wow.
done by then. But I think
Okay.
I remember going to that show.
Yeah, like yeah, because I remember playing. Fallon was in the band. Chris was out, and
Yes,
it was me, Casey, Fallon, and Sean, and
yes, I remember
we
that
yeah
because I remember Brian being at the shows for sure because like I didn't even know he was Gaslight for like I didn't even put that two and two together for like 10 years after it happened. I was like, oh my God, that was like the kind of awkward kid that was in Lamire at the end. That was like my, that, cause like, I mean, we were like pretty good friends with you guys, you know,
yeah.
you
Brian was
know,
quiet. Like he didn't
yeah, yeah.
really
It was
yeah
just
he didn't
like,
mesh.
yeah, it wasn't like it wasn't like a meet. I was like, holy shit, that's the kid that was like, that like joined Lamire at the end that was like real quiet and like awkward. Like that would just like we would all be hanging out like in that like, at the Wayne Firehouse in that like the whatever you want to call it backstage, like the side room.
Yeah.
And like he was always just like kind of in a corner alone and like everyone was just like hanging out, like just like fucking around, like whatever, just like, you know, after shows, like who's going to the diner? Like and it took like half an hour to wrangle like 20 people to go to a diner, you know?
Yep.
Like that diner right by Wayne Firehouse. You know exactly the diner I'm talking about.
Yeah. I think
On
it's the
like
Pompton.
46 or whatever.
Oh, it was there was the Wayne. God damn it. It was on 23. There was one,
23, yeah.
but there was also the TikTok diner on 46.
That's the one I'm talking about,
Yeah.
TikTok.
Yep.
Because I pass that on my way when I drive to my parents' house. I go 346 or 346 80,
Yep.
go up that way, and I pass
hmm
every time. I'm like, yeah, that's the diner.
Oh man, every time I see actually it was funny in Ben's interview from Armor, he told me he met his wife. They had their first date at the Suburban diner in Ridgewood,
Amazing.
Jersey, and that's where me and my ex, who I wrote like every Lane Martin song, like used to go all the time. So it was like, well, that's fucking and, like it's amazing. Like just diners in general in Jersey were such
Oh
great
yeah,
memory spots for after shows, and you know, that's the only place you could afford to bring your girlfriend back
I
then.
forced Ben to go to the Fall Out Boy video shoot, and he met his wife.
No shit.
But they were like he met her that day, and then I mean, they reconnected years later.
Oh
Like,
wow.
yeah, yeah, because so we managed Fall Out Boy. So my last tour, I'm jumping ahead a little bit. My last
Fine.
tour I ever did was with Fall Out Boy in 2005, and which is how I got the job at Crush. But
Okay.
we had managed Fall. I was already working at Crush, and I was like, Ben, you should go to this video shoot, get yourself in it. It's good for your career, blah blah blah. So he went and like met Katrina there, and like years later they like ran into each other on the street. And he was like, he always like tells me that like you forced me to go.
Wow. That's crazy. Then they end up getting married. That's
I
so
know, yeah,
nuts. Wait, was that the video where Fall Out Boy's in the gymnasium?
yeah, Dance Dance video, yeah,
Okay. Yeah, and do you know Danielle?
of Faustini,
Yeah.
yeah, of course, she used to work at Crush,
Okay, yeah, that's
yeah,
right. Who was I talking to
yeah,
about that the other day? Oh,
yeah.
so yeah, did you
She kissed. She's in the video.
Yeah, she's like
Yeah.
she has like all fake like sleeves or are they
Yeah,
real?
no, those are no, they're real.
Actually, do you know Tom Simon? He used to work
I,
at Universal.
I, the name sounds familiar, but I don't. It doesn't ring a bell.
I was just talking because he's the person I knew in Raleigh. That's where I first met. That's how I found out about Raleigh. So I was traveling, I stopped here and hung out with him, and then so then I moved back here. Me and him just like get beers all the time, and we were hanging out last night, and he was talking about because he knew Danielle,
Wait, is he
and
like the video kid?
no, he managed. Let's see, Universal. He was part of trying. You know the Against Me DVD where they're talking about how Universal was courting them and they were like ready to
Yes,
go, but then they went back to fat. So if you listen to, I was listening to Tranny. It's the Laura
yes,
Jean
yes.
Grace book, and as she talks about that whole scenario. So I was walking in the street. This is going in so many directions, but I was walking down Raleigh, going to somewhere, and I saw Tom, and I'm like, yo, they're talking about that moment in time where you were part of Universal's crew trying to get Against Me on the label, and he's
Oh
like
my
talking
God,
about why they made
amazing.
the DVD to shit on you guys. He's like, oh yeah, those were fun times. And so we were talking about that, and he was talking about Danielle. So I was thinking if there was any kind of connection where you actually knew him. But
I honestly, the name sounds. I mean, I might have known him at some point, but I just probably don't remember. But yeah, I mean, Danielle worked at Crush for a long time. She was
yeah,
there when I first started. She
oh,
was. There was
wow.
only like four or five of us there total. Like when I first started, there was not. It was really small. And Fall Out Boy was by far the biggest band, and they were just breaking. You know.
Yeah, I remember that video came out. I'm like, is that Danielle? Because
Oh yeah.
we met Danielle because Heiner met her at some like Scratch Kids show that we played in, I don't know, somewhere in North Jersey in Bergen or something. And him and so Rob from Day at the Fair,
Yeah.
he wasn't in Laymire at the time, but he started dating Danielle, and that's how we got to know her.
I had no idea he dated her. That's hilarious. I mean, I remember Rob very well.
Yeah, that's how we met her because I guess I forget what show he met her. So they dated for a while, and then Barker actually wrote that Day at the Fair song, Double Sided Sword. Do you know that one? It's on like the
Yeah,
first.
yeah. I
He wrote,
do. I know that well. Yeah.
yeah, that's about her. Yeah.
I hope she listens to this podcast.
Yeah.
I
She's like,
please.
why the fuck am I on this podcast right now? It's like, well, you're
Oh,
part of the scene, man.
I mean, I definitely like when she worked at Crush, like I've definitely figured out like I definitely sold her merch at some point for sure. And like we were definitely at the same shows and we
Yeah.
figured it out like years later. Like I was like, "Were you at the Jimmy Eat World show at the Wayne Firehouse?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, 100%." I was like, "Oh yeah, I was definitely
Oh
there."
yeah, she was always at shows. She was
And
like at
this
all the shows.
Yeah, and this kid Joe, who works at Crush now, he's basically kind of like our CFO. He was a scene kid too, and I was like, "Were you at the Jimmy Eat World?" And he was like, "Oh, I 100% was at that show." I was like, "Holy shit, that's so random."
That's so
You know what's actually
crazy.
crazy? That day, the Jimmy Eat World Wayne Fire show, which like everybody in the world was at, or like I actually think that's one of those things that everyone says they were at, like even though if they weren't,
I
because it's like
actually was not at that show, so I know
you're
for
not a
sure.
liar. See,
Yeah.
it's like that. Like oh, there's like somehow like 5,000 people have said that they're there, even though it only holds like 800.
Yeah.
But that day I worked for Midtown. We had a drive-through records CMJ showcase, and it was Newfound Glory, Midtown, Dashboard, and Alistair, and it was at like the Lions Den in Manhattan. And like I worked the show, I sold merch, and then I went back to Gabe's house, and then I went with Ricky to the Wayne Firehouse that night.
Wow.
Yeah, that was like I saw like Hot Rod, Jimmy Eat World, Newfound Glory, Midtown, Dash were like all in one day. It was like the craziest thing.
That's fucking awesome.
That same day, I actually like I figured that out when I was like doing my research for this because I didn't want to like go
Nice.
completely like a clueless idiot.
Yeah, I was like, man, you're remembering so much stuff right now. This is fantastic.
Yeah,
I want to jump back real quick and I want to talk a little bit about like the touring with Midtown and stuff. But
yeah.
what was like one of the craziest shows you guys put on at the skate park?
I think we did a show. It was iFarm and you guys.
Okay,
Do you
I have a
remember this
story of that
show?
one. Yeah, go
Yeah.
on.
So that show, that might have been I think that was the biggest show that was ever at the skate park. It was either that or AFI Ensign Cooter, but I think your show was a little bit bigger. It
Oh,
was the iFarm record release show,
yes.
and it was like, and they're from Ithaca, so and Ithaca's like 35 minutes from Binghamton. So, and like Ithaca and Binghamton couldn't be more different. Ithaca's like on the Finger Lakes, and it's like a really hippie, cool town, and it's like it's awesome. And then Binghamton's like a piece of shit, but it's like, and Cornell's there and all the shit. So it was like the record release show. I think their second record, and you guys played, and there was this band called Orange Drop Kid that
Yes.
Red Leader Matt told us about,
Yep.
and he like jammed them on the show, and we were like, and kids lost their mind. That kid, the singer kid, was like the most insane kid ever. He was so good, like
Yeah.
he would jump around like a lunatic. Um, and he was like from Brazil or something, right?
Yeah, in the beginning of God damn, I forgot about that band. We love those guys. The
They were the
singer,
best.
they started that one song because they were like a hardcore band kind
Yeah,
of, but they started that
kinda.
one
Yeah.
song with like that. He had some. He was a different language and was like a chant.
Yes. I
Yeah,
remember this. Dude,
Jesus.
he spoke like I think he was Brazilian. I think he might have spoke Portuguese.
Yeah, I think that's what he was saying in the beginning.
Dude, Red Leader Matt jammed them on the show.
I forgot about that. That's the
Because
first
Red
time we
Leader
saw
Matt was
them.
how we knew, like that's how we knew Ricky and stuff.
Yep.
And this is even crazier. We didn't even know Ricky and Gabe were brothers. We knew them both independently for a little while.
Yeah,
Like,
they were definitely they did their own thing. Like they
yeah,
are such polar opposites
yeah. And because
that
Gabe was
yeah.
already in Midtown, and like because we had booked him or whatever. And I remember Steve hit up Red Leader Matt. It's like, hey, we're gonna come to see Newfound Glory and Midtown and somebody else at like the Wayne Firehouse. It's like I think we might want to crash with somebody. Do you know anybody? He's like, call Ricky. He'll let you crash. He lets anybody crash. And he just like basically volunteered Ricky's house. and like didn't even ask him. And Ricky, of course, was like, "Yeah, of course, you guys can do whatever." And like, so we became really good friends with Ricky and the Shady View guys, and you guys. And dude, I got some hilarious Ricky stories. We,
You should tell one.
I will. This is so good. So Ricky came up with the Shady View guys, and we were all going to go to I think it's the first Hellfest in Syracuse.
Okay.
And Ricky stayed up like the entire night. He was up for like 24 hours straight making like Avail flyers to like pass out at the fire at Hellfest. And he like first off he passes out. We draw on his face in my basement, and then the next day we go to Hellfest in Syracuse, and we were just like hanging out. Shady View wasn't playing or anything. We're all just like, let's just go to the show because like Bane was playing and all these bands that we love. Converge is the headliner. Oh, wow. Ricky falls asleep on the ground in the club during Converge. It's literally like the loudest I've ever been in my entire life, and he's like literally passed out asleep on the floor. It's like it's one of my favorite, and like we're literally putting flyers on him as like blankets because he just has flyers in his hand and he just passes out. It's one of my favorite moments of him ever. It's like you could have fallen asleep during Juliana Theory because it was way quieter. Like it's literally fucking Converge, and it's so fucking loud, and it's like just the most chaotic thing. And like people are like about to fall over him because it's like even at the back of the venue, it's fucking so packed. It was like the most illegally packed place ever. Like I remember walking in and seeing Bane, and like my friend Adam and I were like, "Is there even a stage here?" Like there were so many people like on the stage and into the crowd. It just merged into one. Like you can find the video online of Bane at Hellfest like 2000. It's fucking insane. So like, you can't even tell if there's a stage.
So that's funny because he just posted a flyer because Avail's playing on June like 19th or something in Richmond.
And it's exactly the same
20
day.
years to the day, and that's the show that he was flying.
Because yes, that's the show, and I actually just got him a ticket to the Brooklyn Avail show because I was like, "Do you need a ticket?" Because I called Christian McKnight and was like, "If you don't get me a ticket by, because I need to see Avail, I'm gonna actually kill you." And he was like, "I'll make sure I get you a ticket by." So he got me a ticket by.
That's amazing, dude.
By the way, I have another amazing story. The day I met Midtown was the day we booked them a show. So they had recorded Save the World. It wasn't out. They had their EP, Sacrifice of Life.
Yep.
And I think that they were still in college, and they were basically doing like weekend loops, and then would go back to school during the week. So again, Steve called, and Rob called them back, and all this stuff. So we booked them a show. So we are at the show waiting for the bands to come. Okay. Like typical, everybody's late. It's fucking punk show. All of our shows started late because that's just the fucking way it was. Van drives up, and we're like, oh, thank God. The show was Digger and Midtown. That was like the two bands, like the out of town bands. I'm sure you remember Digger. They're like a hopeless band.
Yeah, I interviewed Chris from Digger.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, he's episode, I don't forget. It's like he's like 6 episodes ago, I think.
Oh, amazing. Okay, I haven't got that. I go in spurts and listen.
Sounds like someone's not listening.
I go in spurts and like listen, and then I like fall off, and then I listen in like 5 in a row. That's kind of like my podcast game. Because my commute is like 11-minute walk, so I don't have time. So I have to like find time to like dig in. Like if I'm doing laundry or something, I'll like go hard on a podcast.
Oh, I totally get it. No, he's episode 35 for
anyone. Oh, cool, awesome.
Okay. Yeah, and then it goes, and then a couple episodes later, Chuck from Weston is on it too, which is one of my favorite interviews in the world. All right, so go on. So Digger pulls up.
The show's Digger. No. The show is Digger in Midtown.
Oh, okay. Oh,
we're like,
twist.
Oh, okay. Oh, great. So one of the bands is here. Amazing. Finally, someone's here. Great. Roll down the window. They're like, hey, we're here for the show. We're like, oh, who are you guys? They're like, we're the Movie Life. Steve and I are like, we've never fucking heard of you ever. They're like, what? We're like, yeah. They're like, Christian McKnight booked us on the show. He was their booking agent. And I'm like, who the fuck is Christian McKnight? We'd never heard of him either. He literally just told them about a show, and they showed up. And Steve and I were like, I mean, you guys can play first, I guess, and we'll try to give you some gas money. Like, we've never, like, and they were fucking awesome.
That's
Like they were like, oh my
amazing.
god, this is amazing, like insane. And like a year later, Midtown on the Weston tour, we played the Movie Life this like record release show in Long Island, like this time next year, and
Yeah.
they became like really good friends, and like they toured. I mean, they toured all over the world together. I did a tour of the Movie Life when it was like Movie Life, Newfound Glory, and Glassjaw, and I think Autopilot Off. I did a tour with the Movie Life. Um,
Jesus.
it was like right when the self-titled Newfound Glory record came out, I think. Um,
The one
but
with
yeah,
like all the like the toys and shit on the cover?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, we became pretty good friends with those guys too, because like we loved Nothing Gold Can Stay, and we were
Oh
like,
yeah, dude. That was such a great that
and
oh
they
yeah.
played so much in the Northeast that like we would just go see them. And like I saw Newfound Glory Saves the Day in Piebald at this like rec center in Syracuse, and like I'll never forget. It was the first time Newfound Glory had ever seen snow, and they were like freaking out outside. This was in like January, and it was like flurries. Like it was like not snow, and they were like, "Holy shit, snow!" And we're like, "What the fuck are you talking about? Like this is not snow. What do you mean?" Like, it's like we were just laughing, and we became really tight with those. Like we would always go to their shows and like hang out and just chill, and they were always like. We always were like, we got to book you guys. Like, we want to play in Binghamton, and we never did because like Andrew Ellis was kind of a pain in the ass for
Mm,
like DIY kids.
yeah.
So we were like, well, we're good. We're like, we'll just come hang out with you guys, like, because they would play Wilkes-Barre and like Syracuse and all this stuff. And Steve actually reminded me of the story. Ian gave us a copy of their demo, like tape. He traded it for like a burned copy of the Suicide Machine self-titled record.
Get the fuck out of here.
Like there was like a 3-song demo tape before self-titled that had like a couple songs on it and then one that didn't make the record, and he
Oh,
was just like, I'll trade you this demo tape for a copy of the Suicide Machine. Steve remembered that. I was like, that is fucking hilarious. And they gave us a copy of self-titled before it came out. We would go to shows and knew all the words, and like all these kids were like, how the fuck do these assholes know all the words? And we're like, yeah, I don't know. They literally traded it for like a burned version of the self-titled Suicide Machines, because I think we downloaded it early off like SoulSeek or something, and I made him a copy and gave it to him.
so wait, was that the Suicide Machines album with Break the Glass?
No, no, that's the first record. This is the self-titled one. It kind of it's very like
Is that where they
poppy,
kind of yeah, they became kind of
like
Weezer-ish?
Weezer. Yeah, it's a great record actually. But yeah,
Really? I thought when
I
that record came out it was like fucking shit.
everybody hated it. I loved it. It's fucking awesome. After everything after that is
Well,
god
yeah.
awful.
That's like everyone hated In Reverie by Saves the Day, and that's like one of my favorite albums of theirs.
I mean, I like it.
I
It's
loved it. I thought it was great. But yeah, there's always those random albums where you're going, what the fuck did you just do? And
Dude, it was so crazy. And it's not like they were like, oh, major label, blah, blah, blah. So they were on a major label the entire time. Like
yeah,
their
they were on
second record was like super heavy. They were on Hollywood.
Hollywood. Yeah, that's right.
Their second record was super heavy. Like they had like 23 songs and it was like 30. It was like a Kid Dynamite record. And then like their third record was this pop record. And their first record with Break the Glass was like straight up like ska punk kind of stuff.
Well,
With
let's
like
see. Yeah, I'm on Spotify right now. So there was let's see,
so the first one was
Destruction by Definition,
yep, that was Break the Glass. That was like a ska punk. And the second one was
Battle
like
Hymns.
yeah, and it was like all the songs were like a minute long.
Yeah, then
And
they had that one song about his fucking dog or something.
yeah, that's on the third record. That's a self-titled record.
Yeah, so they're
Yeah,
just yeah. I mean, I'm not like remembering this. Anyone listening,
yeah.
I'm literally looking at Spotify, so I'm not like a glossary of information here. But yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, that first record though, we saw them,
Oh, that record was insane. I
dude.
lost my mind the first time I heard that record.
That was
Steve made me a tape of that record, and I literally wore the tape out.
it
I
was so
listened to it
good.
so much. Yeah.
Well, we saw them. They played with Face to Face at Irving Plaza right when Face to Face had released the self-titled one, which you probably didn't listen to because you weren't a
No,
fan.
I did not.
Yeah, but they played at Irving Plaza, and we went to go see them, and Suicide Machines opened up, and we were like, "Oh, who's this band?" And they started playing, and there was always that small group of kids who knew them. So there was a couple things
Yeah.
that made a band stand out to me. It was when they played, they sounded awesome, and they were just awesome to watch. And then there was their diehard fan base who knew them before I did, and there'd
Yes.
be like 30 of them in the crowd of a couple hundred just going crazy in front of the stage. I'm like, okay, there's something here.
Something's there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's something here because these kids are going ape shit for them, and this is probably the best time they're ever going to see them because as the bit, when the crowd gets more involved later on, and you are that fan, you get a little bit mad. You're like, oh, everyone knows of them now. It's not so
See,
special
that's the
anymore.
one thing that I did never had the luxury of living in Binghamton was being able to go to see like a real show in a lot of places. Like, I mean, I guess we would go to Club Benet or whatever
Club
and
A,
drive, but
yeah.
but it was like, but that those bands were like kind of big scene bands. Like we never like, there wasn't like a way to like check bands out that way. Like there was no like That's I mean that's kind of I think why Steve and I were like and Carla were like, hey, let's just book bands because there was like we didn't have that luxury. There was no way to like find and see like, oh man, look at this band. Like we just no idea. It was
Yeah.
like like going to see you guys play in Jersey. We would think you guys are the biggest band in the world.
It's
You know
so
what I mean?
funny to me. It's just so hilarious because we
I
like
mean,
we thought we were like nothing. We'd see those bands like No Effects and like these guys are in the fucking stratosphere.
the
We're
only
like
time we would
shit.
be able to see those bands is if we drove to like Warped Tour, and that would be
Yeah.
like, but that was such a far cry from where it's like that. Those bands were so big to us, Like
Yeah.
Steve and I went to Warped Tour either '99 or 2000. Like we were just like, I mean, we like literally we like snuck backstage. We are like, let's just go backstage. We just like walked back. In Buffalo, we were like, fuck it. We just like sat down.
Seriously?
Like, yeah, we just like walked backstage. Then 2 years later, I was working on the tour. Like,
Jesus Christ.
like so crazy.
All right, so let me kind of segue into the whole
Yeah.
Midtown part, and then we'll
Yes.
kind of
Yeah.
wrap us up
Yeah.
shortly. But so you get on tour with Midtown, and
Yeah.
was that? And we don't have to talk about this. Was that were you the one in the accident?
Yes. That was
Okay.
it was me and my girlfriend at the time.
Do you
Yeah.
want? It popped to my head after I asked you, and I was like, oh my God, I
No,
remember
you,
that
you can.
story.
I don't. I mean,
Okay.
yeah, it's fine.
So I remember this was the time where being on the road was, was a, was a thing in general as a band because we were broke and we'd show up at
Mhm.
shows, there'd be no one there. But that was why it was so awesome. But I remember there was a point in time where we just kept hearing of all of these bands flipping their vans, and
Saves
that
the
was
Day was the first one I remember,
y-
like real bad.
yeah.
Like
I mean, there
Elevation
was
Low. Yeah.
yeah, it was like that. I think it's like Saves the Day did it, and then
Yeah, it was Saves the
um,
Day H2O. I remember because we went to see them play a few days later, and was Dave the guitar player?
for Saves the Day,
Yeah,
he was the tall, skinny guy, or
yeah,
the
yeah. And I
yeah.
remember he literally had like no teeth when he was playing because it was like literally like days after they had gotten the accident, and it
Jesus.
was like they. I mean, I think they just had to keep going, kind of thing. It was like, but it was like a few days after that happened, and I just remember like I can vividly remember in Syracuse seeing him play, and like he like had like no teeth in his front, like the front of his grill. It was
Jesus
crazy.
Christ. I mean, that was the craziest thing because it was there were we'd be on the road and we'd be hearing these stories from I don't even know how we'd hear them. I think it was just from kids saying us like, "Hey, by the
Yeah,
way," because we didn't have the internet and it was word of mouth and the word would travel to us, so we'd be in the middle of somewhere going, "Jesus Christ, dude, like we got to be careful with this shit."
it was so scary, man.
Yeah, because they'd be in the middle. A lot of times, I think that one also happened, or some of these happened in the mountains of Colorado where it was like black ice everywhere, and they didn't realize they hit it, and they would just flip.
I'm almost certain that's where like Saves the Day kind of happened.
Yeah.
Later on, the movie life that happened to them out west as well.
Hmm.
I remember that. I think they were in like North Dakota or something.
Well, I think the fucked up thing too was that when this was happening, remember Buddyhead?
Yeah, of course.
So Buddyhead, I think, made a like they started joking about it. I
I'm
think because
sure.
all of these bands start flipping, and I think they made some joke of like oh my God, it was like, I guess God hates shitty bands too, or something like that. And I was like,
Oh my
wow, dude. It's like, that is brutal.
I kind of miss Buddyhead
I'm
in a way.
paraphrasing, but I mean,
No,
that
no,
was
but
the
I'm
gist.
sure that might be actually not harsh enough compared to like what they would say.
Yeah, I mean, they were. fucking.
So brutal.
I think one of the, I'm gonna jump back in, but I think one of the funniest things was that they got John Mayer, and I like John Mayer. I mean, I don't care if people. I think he's hilarious, and I think his songs are pretty good the first couple albums. But they found his number. They're like, hey, here's John Mayer's phone number. Give him a call and tell him that his mom's body's a wonderland.
Oh my
But that was
God.
what they would do. They'd put that.
Oh yeah.
They'd find fucking Fred Durst's phone number and put it on. They just put all personal information there. Here's this person's email. Like,
Like
do this or
harass
call 'em.
them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's a time and a place that is not even remotely possible to happen nowadays.
No. Oh
Like,
God, no. That'd be taken out
like,
so fast.
oh yeah, it's crazy to think that that was like a thing.
So, okay, so I remember hearing about you guys. So
Yes.
the
So we were on
yeah,
tour
word hit
with.
us about that. So tell us about that.
Okay, so we were on tour with Real Big Fish Catch 22 in Midtown. That was the tour. Um, I think we were probably like a week to 2 weeks into the tour because we had gone to the Midwest and stuff and kind of come back towards the East Coast. Um, this is actually crazy, weird trivia.
Okay.
Real Big Fish. We were on this. We were on this tour with Real Big Fish. The singer, I'm almost certain his name is Aaron.
Aaron, yeah.
Had a broken hand, okay, and he couldn't play guitar. They had a fill-in guitar player on the tour. The fill-in guitar player was James Valentine, who is now in Maroon 5.
Really?
Yes.
Was that when they were in Kara's Flowers?
I don't even think Kara's Flowers this was in 2000. I don't even think Kara's Flowers even existed
Yeah.
yet.
No, I think they were done or something. Okay, but Jesus Christ. So he's the guitar player from Maroon
He
5.
was the guitar player he's the guitar player now for Maroon 5. He's been the guitar player for like since I guess probably the beginning, like forever.
Oh my God,
Like
that's
he was the
crazy.
fill-in guitar player because Aaron couldn't play guitar on that tour because he had like a broken hand or something. And so he was he was an amazing guitar player. He was like the nice guy, but I was like, years later, someone told me that. I think it was probably Rob. And I was like, oh my God, that's insane. Like, I guarantee if you ask him, he will not admit he was in Real Big Fish for any time.
I think if he did, he'd win some serious scene points. He'd be like, fuck yeah, I played that show.
He did the whole tour. It's so good.
Jesus.
Fucking Real Big Fish.
He's
But
like, now
yeah,
I'm crushing ass left and right.
oh yeah, it's hilarious. Yeah. He's like, they just played the Super Bowl for Christ's sake.
Yeah, everyone saw that.
Yeah.
Or a lot of people saw that.
But so yeah, we were on tour and um, we were driving up 95 in Connecticut, and it was middle of the day.
Wow.
Deer came out in front of the van. Gabe swerved, trailer jackknifed, and it was like real bad. Like we flipped over. Like honestly, I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily believe in luck, good or bad, but there's like nobody really around us car wise, which 95 is like the busiest highway in the world basically, and
Yeah.
somehow like nobody hit us. Like there was really no cars around, because it probably could have been a lot worse. Yeah, and it was. I mean, we landed like I was standing up on the side window, like just standing because I was laying down in one of the benches.
Jesus Christ.
And I mean, the trailer was like up in the tree. There was like the money box. I remember like there's certain things I remember vividly. Like the money box was just like open. There was just money everywhere, like merch money, and like
Wow.
pins everywhere, like that just exploded out of whatever they were in.
Did you guys flip over multiple times, or did you just do
I
like?
think we flipped. I honestly don't know. I think we might have flipped once and landed on the side, and the trailer ended up in the tree, like in a tree,
Jesus
basically.
Christ.
And yeah, I mean, it was really bad. I remember I was standing up, and the sun was peering through the top of because like you're on the side, so the windows, one window's above me and one window's at my feet, in the van, and I had like the biggest goose egg on my head. Like I could literally look up and see it because I had hit my head. And Stacy, my girlfriend at the time, was with us. She was just riding with us for I don't remember for how long, but she flew out of the van because she was asleep, so she didn't release herself. and she flew like 50 feet, and like she was real messed up. Like she like like broke her back, I think, and like she might have broke. I think she broke her neck. And she landed like in between two trees, like a few feet either way. She would have definitely been dead.
Jesus
Um,
Christ.
she was in the hospital for like a couple months. It was like real bad.
That was
Yeah,
like I mean those were scary times because it was all it went from being in Legion halls and
yeah,
small venues that whatever we could just put together, and then bands started to make it, and then they'd start touring and things were like, oh, we're all unstoppable, and then shit like that started happening, and we started freaking a lot of people out,
I mean,
so
and it was like this middle ground between like VFW bands and like actual real bands
yeah,
that like had like business managers and insurance and all this other shit. So it's like you're kind of still DIY in a way, but you're too. It's like you're too big to be small and too small to be big.
yeah,
So it's like the band they didn't have insurance. I mean, like the van had insurance, but like the gear, all that stuff, like they did. A lot of the benefit stuff helped them get gear and stuff too.
yeah.
It's like their whole shit's gone. Like everything was gone. Like everything they've worked, like, a lot of their gear you save up. I mean, think about it for you guys. Like how long did you save to get your first like real amp or whatever?
Oh, dude, even
Like,
like nowadays, it would probably take me a while, even like
yeah,
to spend like $1,200 or whatever it is on a
yeah.
even $900 like on a JCM like 2000 head, if they even still make those.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
imagine a whole trailer of all your stuff that you've had like just gone,
yeah.
done, like trashed, like
How
in an
long
instant.
how long did it take you to, or how long after that did you guys get back in a new van and go on tour? And like, were you right with them, or did you take some time
No,
off?
so I stayed in Connecticut at the hospital. They only missed a couple shows. They borrowed Catch 22's gear and kept playing, and they like took all the merch money every night and got donations and tried to keep things going.
Jesus.
Um, I didn't. I took. I was done basically from that, and then the following summer I went back out with them. Um, So like I kind of stayed home. I went to so like that was in the fall. So I re-enrolled in school in the spring semester. So I went to school, and then that summer I like that was like my summer break from college. Like all my friends had like jobs at like Subway, and I like went on the Wharf tour, and like we were opening for Blink 182. It was Blink with Newfound Glory in Midtown. It was like amphitheaters. It was like it blew my mind. Like a year before I was booking you guys at the skate park, and the next year I'm like, playing, this huge amphitheater, and there's 20,000 people there, and you're just like, oh my goodness, this
That
is
that's
crazy.
nuts, dude.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like blew my mind. It's like, and we were in a van still, and Newfound Glory had a bus, and we're like, oh my God, they have a bus. Like, holy crap, this is crazy. It's like, imagine having a bus one day. It was just like insane to think about.
Did Midtown ever actually ever have a bus?
Yeah, they definitely did. Like,
Okay.
yeah, for sure. Like after that, I think they probably, maybe like the next, after Living Well, I think they definitely were in a bus for a long time.
Yeah, I don't think because I talked to Heath in like episode 3, and I don't think I went into to 2000 or too much, where
Yeah.
I remember asking, but that was also like a year ago where I
And
told
I
you
was
that.
done by the time they were in a bus. Like, I never toured with them when they were in a bus. I was done going on tour
What
after that.
so like what transitioned you like so when you're doing that, I mean this obviously at what point did you um just kind of go in the direction where it went from booking shows locally, being on the road with Midtown, and then you started managing other bands, but like what port did you go like, oh,
Well,
I'm
the
actually making a
transition,
career?
yeah. So the transition from that was I moved to the city, um, and Rob, Rob and I became like best friends basically. Um,
Yeah,
so
he's kind of an okay guy.
yeah, he's fine. Has he been on the? He hasn't been on here, has he?
No, actually, and real quick, the reason why the record got put out is because he listened to Heath's interview, and he
Amazing.
we were posting in the Northern Jersey pop punk Facebook group, and someone tagged him, and he responded, and I responded, and he messaged me. He's like, "Hey, dude, I loved the Heath interview. Um, he might not have said that. I'm just gonna throw that. No, I think he really liked it. He was
No,
like,
he definitely did because he told me about it. That's how I found out about the podcast.
yeah, I mean, he was like, can I? He's like, did you guys ever put stories out? Is stories available online anywhere? I said no. He goes, what are your thoughts on getting it on Spotify under the label? And then we ended up having a phone call like the day that Heath's interview launched. Me and Rob talked for like 2 hours, and that was the longest conversation I ever had with Rob. And
That's amazing.
at the end of it, he was like, we decided we're gonna do a vinyl release. So he was like, we could put it on I Surrender, and we could do a vinyl pressing. And I go, that's great. I go, because I can do all the design work. I could set the files up. I'm like, I could do all the promotion and digital stuff for this because I know all that shit. So you don't have to spend any like a
I'm
dime.
almost certain Rob emailed me about doing that while you were still on the phone.
That's amazing.
Like he was like, "What should we do this? Like, should we put this out on Ice Run?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it. I love those guys."
Yeah,
Fuck
I
yeah.
was like, you're not gonna. I was like, you're not gonna make any money off this. You
Oh
should
no,
live with
no,
this.
we
But
didn't. I mean, we never did the label to make money ever. I mean
yeah,
that. So actually, this is a good segue because Rob, I moved to the city. Rob and I had gotten like a shitty job. I worked at the Virgin Megastore in Union Square in the city. Um, and I was just like I just started as a cashier. Then I became stock. Then I became like a manager there.
okay.
I was like, sure. I'm like, okay, this is kind of like a real job. Sure, whatever. Like, I'm trying to figure my shit out. And Rob was like, he had recorded their third record. Um,
Living
and I'm
Well's
drawing.
Best Revenge.
No, that's the second one. The third one is the one on Columbia, and I literally am drawing a
You got to
blank.
know this, Roadie.
So I was done with them then. I was retired.
That's okay. I have the internet in front of me. Let me look. Forget what you know.
Forget What You Know. Yes. So they recorded Forget What You Know, and Rob had started I Surrender, and he was like he had met this kid in West Virginia, Greg, and he was like, oh, I'm gonna put out this like EP. It's called band called Time and Distance, and you know, and Rob was like it was basically kind of like a side thing to do while he was he's like I finished my drums like what the fuck am I gonna do while we're recording this record. Um, so they had just got managed by Crush, ironically. So
Hmm.
that's how I actually met the Crush people because of Midtown, and I was Rob's friend, and I knew Gabe and whatever.
Okay.
Um, and Rob's like, "Hey, do you want to help me? I got to go on tour now. I need some help with my record label because like there's shit to do that I can't do when I'm on the road. It's like, and you have like a job, and he's like, whatever. And I was like, okay, yeah, that sounds awesome. Like that's amazing. I'd love to do that. So like I just like helped him. Like he's like, we're gonna put out this record called From Stars Hide Fire. They were a band from DC, and like that was just like a side thing. Like we just did it, and then like I was like, oh, I want to like buy in. So he let me buy into the label, and then so he goes on tour, does his thing, Midtown's third record on Columbia, all this stuff. So I became pretty close with the Crush guys, and there was a girl named Bonnie who worked there. She lived in Gabe's apartment in Jersey City. She rented it from him.
Okay.
Like he lived on the first floor, and she lived on the second floor, like in the basement or whatever. So, and I lived in Jersey City, and I lived like it was literally like 3 blocks down the street. Just happened to be that. So we became friends, and she's like, "Oh my God, like I would love to get you a job at Crush one day." I'm like, "Oh, that'd be awesome." Like I would love to not have to work at the record store because this is like about to be dead kind of thing. Um, and so I was just like working my shit job. Like, I was making pretty good money. I was like an assistant store manager kind of thing. And it was like, whatever, but it's like retail. It's like, whatever, it is what it is. Um, and she called me up and was like, hey, I need like Pete Wentz needs someone help like work on it for his clothing line. Like you used to do merch a long time ago, right? I'm like, yeah. She's like, do you think you'd go on the road and like help sell merch do his clothing line on the road for their tour? And I'm like, I don't know. She's like, I think if you do a really good job, I can get you a job at Crush. And I'm like, oh man, I don't know. Like, let me think about it.
Wow.
And I went to visit my parents. I took the bus to visit my parents, and I told them, and my parents were like, "That's you should like Fall Out Boy." They were like, "Take the Shooter Grave" was out. They were just about to explode. Like it was just about. I'm sorry, not Take the Shooter Grave. From the Under the Cork Tree had just come out, and they were like about to explode.
Yeah.
My parents were like, "Is this band going to be big?" Blah blah blah. And I'm like, "Yeah, I think it's going to be real big. Like I might be able to get a job at this management company and all this stuff." And so somehow, like my parents were just like, "Yeah, you should try. You should do it." I'm like, "I'm not gonna have health insurance, and I'm not gonna have like a paycheck, or like a steady paycheck, blah blah." They're like, if you think it's a risk worth taking, you should do it. And I was like, I expected my parents to be like, "You got a steady job, like with health insurance, you should go on the road, whatever." And my parents were like, "Yeah, maybe you should do it." And I was like, "Holy shit!" So like, this was on like Friday or Saturday. The tour started Tuesday.
Wow.
I literally went in to work Monday, and it was like one of my favorite days of my life because like I showed up late because I was getting my shit together, and they're like, "What the fuck? You showed up late, blah blah blah." And I was like, "You know what? I quit." Like I got to like do that where you like dream of quitting. They're like, "What are you talking about?" Like, "I'm done. I fucking quit this place." Like, what? You can't quit. I'm like, "I'm done. Fuck you guys." Like, they're like, "You need to put 2 weeks." I'm like, I have tons of vacation. Put in my vacation. I'm fucking done. I'm
Like
done
I'm
with
going
you.
on tour with Fall Out Boy,
I
bitch.
was like, seriously, I was like, "I'm going on tour. I'll see you guys later." They're like, "When are you leaving?" I'm like, "Tomorrow." And I like literally flew out the next day and went on tour. And
Wow.
I basically helped do, so I helped do Pete's clothing line, Clandestine, it was called.
Yeah, I remember
Like,
that.
it was,
That was
I mean,
huge too.
yeah, I mean, fall, but I'm saying like, they were, they were so crazy big, blowing up. Like their merch guy couldn't even do merch alone. So I ended up helping him. Like I was like, I'm like, Clandestine's like not selling hardly anything for the Fall Boy, and I'm just like standing there. I'm like, I feel like this is insane. So I just like basically, like we just double teamed the whole thing because it was like literally impossible, like for one guy to do it because they were selling like $10 shirts, and we were doing like some nights like $30,000 worth of merch
Oh
and shit
my
like that. Where you're like,
God.
I mean, like you can't even like fathom like where you're like, what the? How could you even? It's like you can't like nonstop busy from the time the doors open. And I'm like, you're literally missing the band to try to buy a shirt. Like it was crazy.
I was expecting you to say like, when you pause, I'm like, he's probably gonna say like 1,000 or maybe 3,000. You're like
Uh,
30,000. I'm like,
oh no,
get
it was
the
crazy. I mean,
fuck
like
out of here.
crazy stuff. Like boxes and boxes of merch. Like I mean, most nights it was probably like 5 to 10,000, but still, like and
Still, dude,
cheap shirts where you're just like they just couldn't keep them up in stock or whatever.
that's
Um,
crazy.
yeah, so it was just like I was just like after like day two, I was like, I can't let this guy just stand here alone. This is the worst. Like, what am I, an asshole? Like that's fucked up. So I was just like, let's just do this together, and I just helped him. And like a couple weeks in, Bonnie called me, is like, "I got you a job," like, because Bob, who runs Crush, one of the two owners, called Pete and was like, "We're thinking about hiring this kid. What do you think?" Pete put a word in for me, said like he's a hustler, he's good, whatever he said, and yeah, that was
That's
it.
wild.
Like you can
See,
start you can start at the beginning of next year.
I think the theme that I've caught in this interview is that I think all these really good things have happened to you, besides the flipping over in the van. That was just, life is a bitch sometimes. I think you're just a very good person, Alex. And I think it is rewarding you nicely.
I
So,
appreciate you saying that. I that's not necessarily the reputation I have, but that's
oh
maybe.
really? What's the
I mean,
reputation you have? Let's talk about
I've
that.
probably call me an asshole, but
They're probably like, this guy doesn't know him for dick.
yeah, I think people would probably call me an
Well,
asshole, but
it's not
maybe,
like,
at least
well,
maybe in my 20s. I'm a
yeah, but
little more calm now.
well, behind the
Now that
scenes
I'm
though,
married.
like I think though maybe in the moment you got to be you have to be a certain way to get shit done. And
Yeah,
there's people who are tyrants, and there's people who are just straight business. Say, look, like we could be friends afterwards. We got to get shit done. So I'm going to talk to you this way.
yeah,
And it's like that scene in Pulp Fiction where he's like,
yeah.
I'm going to be very stern. He's like, so pretty please with a fucking, cherry on top, whatever. But
Yeah,
he's like, you come in like you're like the wolf.
listen, I think I had to when I was in my 20s, I was kind of a shithead, and I just like I was learning how to be a manager and all that stuff. And I'm sure I was an asshole then, a lot more, than I am now. I'm a lot more calm, but I mean, you kind of have to be in a way
You
in
gotta
this
get shit
job.
done, dude. Like you can't sit
Yeah.
there and softly be like, "Hey, can you like look,
Hey,
we're
can you
here.
please do
We gotta
this?
do
It's
this."
like, nah, that doesn't really get things done.
Oh,
But I
dude,
mean,
yeah.
like, listen, I don't really believe in luck. Yeah, I've been very fortunate. I know I'm fortunate. I mean, but like, I mean, I hustled, like,
Yeah.
but and not in like a shitty hustle way where you're like scamming people. Like, it was just like,
No, you saw opportunity and you're
yeah,
like,
I'm
let me
like, I
try
went on tour.
this.
Like, I didn't get paid for my first tour,
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, we had an intern here last fall, and he was like, "These things don't work out for me, blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Well, you want to be a man? Like, you should go on tour." He's like, "I tried that. It like doesn't work. It doesn't. I don't get paid, blah blah." I'm like, "Dude, I didn't get paid. You just like suck it up." And he like didn't want to listen to what I had to say.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Dude, you just gotta like make shit happen." And he's like, he basically was like an entitled little shithead that was like, and I was like, finally he just kept not I kept telling him the same thing. I'm like, dude, just you gotta make things happen.
Yeah.
Like if you hustle, it'll happen. And he just was like, yeah, but he just kept giving me excuses. I was like, finally I was like, dude, I think we're done here. Like, and I was done talking to him.
Yeah.
Like, and I was like, dude, I gave you like 15 ideas. Like go to a venue and tell them you want to help out. Like, who gives a shit if it's for free? Like, if you like meet bands at there and tell them like you want to go on tour, like let me know if you know anybody who wants to go on tour. Like, suck it up, just do it.
Well,
He's
I
like,
mean,
I don't know, like I need to pay my bills. I'm like, well, you're either gonna make it or you're not. So suck it up.
how old is he?
Like 22.
I mean, that is goddamn. I mean, I'm almost 40 and I'm still like just showing up and trying things, So I
Me
mean, that
too.
it doesn't go away. But the thing is that because they think that it's gonna last like that forever, and really what it comes down to is you show up, you show people your value of what you can do, and you learn and you listen and you kick ass, and then they go, and then you're like, okay, I gotta go. They're like, well, we need to keep you around. You're like,
Yes.
well, how do you keep me? I don't know how that works. You just be gullible and just be like, I don't know
Yeah.
how we can make this work. And they go, well, what if we paid you this? You're like, all right, let's start there.
Yeah.
So I mean that is it. And that's I think there's so much opportunity in industries if you just show up and say, "Hey, I need to do this for free." I mean, like when I was younger, when I went back to school at 24,
Yeah.
I gave my mom my resume and said, "Give this to everyone you know in the marketing industry and tell them to work for free." And it got me in the door within
There you go.
seconds. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
everyone will let you in the door on that, but if you show up and you're valuable, they will keep you around
That's the thing.
anyway.
Listen. Sometimes you're fortunate to get someone to open a door for you, and I know I've had that fortune. But sometimes if you see a crack, you got to force your way through, and then you need to. Once you're in the door, that's when the real work starts. And I think a lot of people have the problem, like the real work is getting the door open. It's like, no,
Yeah.
once you're in there, you need to stay in there.
Yeah.
Like, grab the fucking brass ring and go. Like, don't like, and that's kind of like what I guess that's kind of like how I managed to get where I am. It's like that's just how it happened. It's like shit just happened, and I was very fortunate, but I also, I made the most of every opportunity. It's like I said earlier, it's like I got paid per diems on my first tour. I didn't
Yeah.
care because it was cool. It was fun. Like, I got to go on tour. Like, Steve worked at a skating rink. I was on tour. Like, I mean, it was like this was way better than that, or whatever. Like, one of my friends worked at a call center, and I mean, I did that too for a while. But it was like I
Oh.
took vacation from my call center job and like took a leave of absence for a summer, and that's how I went on tour with Midtown to go with Blink and Warped Tour.
Well, there's
Like,
the
I was
thing
literally
too,
on a
right?
leave of absence. Like, people are like, where were you? Where have you been? I'm like, oh, I was on tour. Like what? I'm like with who? I was like, oh, this band, my friend's band. They like opened for Blink-182, and people were like, what the fuck? What are you? You're like, they thought I was lying.
Yeah.
I was like no. And Blink was like, take off your pants and jacket, like huge. Like,
Yeah.
and they're like, no, you weren't. I was like, okay, sure, whatever, I don't care.
Well, I
Like,
mean, that's the thing is that it's oh God, I just like lost my train of thought, but y- yeah, but it's like think of the memories that you have there, right? Where it's okay, I'm a call center cold call person for money, And
Yeah.
where the money wasn't there, I was having this experience where that was the biggest thing of my life. So if I look back and tell anybody about this year or that month, which story am I going to tell? Oh,
Yeah.
let me tell you about my days in the call center where I was making some money to pay rent and it was awful. But here's the thing, but there was that other thing I did for free, but that was, so that was not cool. It was fucking
Yeah.
amazing. And the way you talk about it, you're like, yeah, to the call center, you'd be like, fucking blink, on tour. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of people like, it's kind of cool. It kind of gives me a little bit like of energy talking to you about this because I definitely hit walls where I get into the money thing. Even now, I'm like, man, I gotta
Yeah.
fucking do this. Where I'm thinking, I talk to people too, and you listen to success books. They're just like, you can't go after the money, you go after the success. And when you're struggling for rent, you sit there and go fuck yourself with
Yeah.
that.
Oh, of course. I
But it
mean,
goes back to that though. It's you
there
have
was
to
moments in
truly
my
love
life
it.
where I had literally no money, like desperately had no money. And, my parents, like I was a middle class kid, but my parents were very much like like make sure you learn lessons kind of thing, where it's
Hmm.
like, you know, we're not going to give you shit. It's like, you want to move to the city, you don't finish college, like that's on you. We want you to finish college, but if you don't want to, that's fine, but that's on you. We're not going to take care of you. We're not going to, let you do your thing. Like, I remember when I first moved here, I went on a job interview up in Harlem. I didn't have enough money to take the subway back to the PATH train to go to Jersey City. I walked from like 110th Street to 14th Street, and
Jesus.
my Discman batteries ran out. So I went into like a bodega and I stole batteries because I literally had $2.20 in my checking account, and I couldn't even take that out to like buy a subway ticket because like you had to take out a certain amount or whatever. I
Wow.
was like, you just figure shit out, like you just deal. Like I don't know, like you figure it out.
Yeah, that's amazing, dude.
Fuck it, like just work hard. Like if you work hard and you're nice and you make an impression, you try to parlay it. I think that's you can make a lot of things happen. And I think if you want things given to you, like fuck off.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah, no,
listen,
I
New York
totally get
City
it,
is a
man.
tough place. Like people come here and don't make it, and it's because if you don't put in 110% here, there's going to be somebody right next to you that will, and that's why people get weeded out here so fast. Like this place is like a hard place to live, but if you work hard, it's not, And it's
Yeah.
like there's that only the strong survive, all that like, but it's kind of true for New York. It's like it's a tough place to live. It's not easy, but because like everybody wants your job, It's like if you're not going to do that, there's like 15 guys on the street right now that will do that job. So you better fucking want to do it and you better do it hard. Like it doesn't matter if you're an executive or if you're, a fry cook at McDonald's, like be the fucking best fry cook you could possibly be because those guys are the ones that end up being the store manager, they become the regional manager, whatever, or they go do something else and they take those steps and parlay it. And the other people that just complain, they move back to Omaha or whatever, and you never see them again. It's like it's just how it
Dude,
is.
goddamn, man, you and I should fuck. If I was in New York, I'd be like, we need to get a beer right now and talk about this for hours, because
I
I
mean,
am on
it's
the same
true.
page.
Like
Yeah.
it's my wife's from Louisiana in a small town. She is a hustler. Like she went to college full time. She went and had a full time job at the same time, and like she's like the only one that left her town. Like, and she's it's like everyone else is like, you guys live in that big city. It's like she like left when she was 21 because she was like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to like work at a grocery store and have four kids. Like it's
Yeah.
just not what I want in my life. And it's all good either way. But like, she's similar to me. Like it's why we get along so well. She's a hustler.
That's
You know,
awesome.
she put herself through college. She drove an hour and a half every day to work. She managed a store. Like she managed a Victoria's Secret while she was going to college full time.
Oh, wow.
And she parlayed that into a job at the corporate, and now she moved up to vice president, and then she left, and now she owns her own company. But she just we have similar paths in that. She's from a completely different part of the country, but we have similar paths in like we just kind of hustled our way into the city and just made shit happen. So
So that's the lesson for anyone listening who is a in the music
Don't
industry.
be or any
Any
industry.
industry, yeah, that's any industry.
Don't
That is
be a millennial loser that expects people to give them things.
Yeah. I did a thing once. Where's my $1 million? You're like, you gotta do that shit way more fucking times. And
Oh,
and be fucking good at it too. That's why
just
like a lot
work
of bands made
hard.
it.
Like, yeah, like bands, it's like,
You gotta have something though. Like if you're not if it's not working like if you're doing music, I mean granted I'm just doing it's a broad spectrum of this conversation now, but I mean just
yeah,
kind of keeping it on a band aspect.
yeah,
You know it's relevant. It's if you it has to be good. So even
yeah,
it's like if you can market the fuck out of something, it's like you can't, if you bring everyone, I would say like if you're advertising a party, right? And
yeah.
your marketing's great, but everyone shows up to the party and the party sucks,
One and done.
no one's gonna come back. But
That's right.
if you have a party, a small party, and it kicks so much fucking ass, everyone's gonna leave that party and tell everyone, and then everyone's gonna want to come to the next party based on how well you did it. So make the party fucking amazing.
It's now, I mean, now more than ever for music, it's so accessible. So it's like, if it's good, you can be big and not, and you can, like, if you have a great song on Spotify, you could have no record label and you can be huge,
Yeah, yeah,
It's like, and like, or you could be, Lady Gaga and have the biggest marketing behind you in the world. And you put out Joanne and play the Super Bowl and people just don't really care. I mean, it's just like, it's fine, but like, you know, it's just like, it doesn't really matter anymore. Like you only get so far based on your reputation of previous stuff more than ever, which is to me is awesome. It
yeah.
like allows the cream to rise on its own without like a machine pushing something down your throat where it's like, yeah, that still exists, but like, radio means less than ever, like Spotify means more, and that's a lot
Yeah.
more, that's real data, it's not who's going to do this and who wants to be, play a radio show or whatever it is. But
Yeah.
it's like to me that's a good thing for music, and I know there's like a great underground scene. Like it's not something I'm involved in anymore, just because I'm an old crusty asshole. But
At the tyrant
I mean,
Alex.
people are always like, you must go to a lot of shows. I'm like, I'd rather kill myself than go to a show. Like
Well, you've
I've been
also
to
been doing it for so
thousands of
long.
shows. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like like you know they're like, oh, like listen, I'm really excited to go see Avail. They're one of my favorite bands, so I'm excited to go see that. But like there's not many bands I want to go see. It's like
Yeah.
I saw everybody. It's like I saw everybody at the Wayne Firehouse before they were big. So it's like, and not that's like not in like a bragging way. It's just like there's nostalgia and like amazing stuff that like I used to love Alkaline Trio like so much, love them, but like I'm good. I don't need to see them again. Like I
Yeah.
have amazing memories of of them that like I don't ever want to go away and be replaced. And we talked a little bit about Suicide Machines earlier. Um, I I absolutely love the Descendants, and that's one of the bands I will see no matter what because they never get old to me.
Yeah.
And I went and saw them at Roseland. This is probably almost 10 years ago now. And Suicide Machines opened, and they were so bad that I was like, I think I don't like this band anymore. Like I used to love them, and like I literally, they were so bad, like, and they were just like, they were like up their own ass about like fuck Live Nation and this kind of stuff, and I'm like, dude, you just got a check from them to play the show. Like, what are you talking about? I was just like so put off by it, but like I was like, man, I really wish I'd never seen them because now like my memories of liking them were just like kind of ruined in a way. And
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that sucks. It's like I try not to see bands for the most part that like reunite or like, dude, at the drive-in got back together. I'm like, nah, I'm good. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I saw him with the Get Up Kids the way, whatever. Like, I'm good.
That's
Like,
why you didn't go. That's why you didn't go to the Lamar show. No, I get it. I get it,
well,
Alex.
Neymar, I wanted to see because I wanted to see you guys because I was friends with you guys, and that's
Yeah.
why. And to me, was like a part of my life that meant a lot to me. Like you guys were like the first touring band that we became friends with ever. So to me, that was like a really special. You guys were a special band that
That's
because
awesome.
like it was like you guys were like oh my god, they're like dude, we thought Red Leader was a huge label, because like Matt had fucking Saturday Supercade and River City High and fucking Strike Anywhere. We're like, oh my God, because we love those bands. So for loving those bands, we felt that me automatically meant it was a big label. You
Yeah.
know, oh whoa, Lamar, oh my God, like Saturday Supergate, they're from Ohio, and like Riverside Heights from like
Richmond.
from Virginia, and
Yeah.
Strike then like Strike Anywhere, whatever. And it was like, holy shit, like this is amazing. It's like
Well, I will say though
these
one
guys are
thing.
huge.
I would say one thing, and I am gonna wrap this up, but Matt, I will give him credit, even though to this day I don't even he likes me anymore, but he had an excellent ear. Not saying because of our band was on the label, he was really good at calling when a band was gonna be very big.
Him and Steve Brown to me are two people in my life like that were so far early on every fucking band. Like, listen, Steve's the reason why I know you guys, and Matt put you guys' record out. But like those guys to me, I trusted more than anybody. Were just like, yo, you got like Matt was so he has like some of the best ears I've ever met of anybody.
Yeah.
Like, does he like? Isn't he like like a big comic book guy now or something?
Matt?
Yeah.
Man, last time I saw Matt, I had a conversation with him at the Lifetime. Actually, no, I did see him after that, but before that, I had a conversation at the Lifetime reunion show in 2006 or 5 when
I,
they played
at the
Asbury.
Stone Pony,
Yeah,
I was there.
yeah, I do remember running into you there.
Dude, I helped put the record out with Pete and Decadence. We
Oh,
were like putting
really?
them out. Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
was
That was
Decadence.
so weird. Decadence.
Is it Canes? Okay. Yeah, because I remember talking to Scotty after the show because everyone was walking up to him talking to him, and I was hammered. I'm like, dude, thank you so much for playing. And he was like there with his wife. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you guys like talking, but he's like, no, no, it's totally fine. I go, you guys got to do this again. And he kind of gave this smile. He's like, "Well, yeah, we'll see. And that was when they already knew that they were going to record that album on that
Yeah.
record, which is so funny.
That was, I mean, see, I'd never seen them when they were really a band. So I was
Neither
like,
did I. Yeah, when I
I
saw them at the, I mean,
I
it
don't
was
think
fucking
anybody saw
insane.
like they were not big. Like,
They
you
were
know,
they became big. They became really big and known after Jersey's Best Dancers came out.
but they broke up before they ever toured on that, right?
Right.
Yeah.
No,
Like,
no, they played a couple shows, and I've seen some video of them playing out. I mean, YouTube is fantastic.
yeah.
Um, but and you could go on there and there's a show where they're playing and they're playing Jersey's Best Dancers songs. And I'm like, oh my God, this is fucking amazing. And then
Dude,
they were done.
they're easily one of my all-time favorite bands. I mean, easily. Like
Oh yeah.
they've meant so much to me.
I've been trying to get Ari on this thing for like I text him like someone got me his number and I text him a couple times and he's like, I don't want to do it. He's like, you should come here. We could do face to face. I was like, I'm not going to fucking Jersey, dude. Like, come
Well,
on.
actually, when you come play the reunion show, you could do it.
Yeah, it's not gonna happen.
That's actually the move. That's the way to get you to Jersey. This is like my marketing, like like this is me being a manager. Like, okay, here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna book yourself a show in Jersey, and then you're gonna line up a week's worth of interviews in person. So you kill two birds with one
Oh,
stone.
dude, if I can, I mean, that's like the big
That's the
dream.
move.
That, well,
That's the move.
the big dream of this whole podcast, if it ever got to a status where it was that big, I would literally spend like a month on the road and just travel to interviews. I'd show up with a camera and set it up and just edit it and film it myself and just talk to
Please.
people. I would totally do it.
Yo, what's Matt's real last name?
Uh,
Um,
Rosenberg,
Matt Rosenberg.
Matt
Yeah,
Rosenberg. Yeah.
dude, he legit is like a real like crazy like comic book dude. Like he wrote like Spider-Man or some shit like that.
Oh,
Like I don't know anything about comics.
he's creating comics.
He like writes them and shit.
What?
Cause like he'll pop up on my feed like once in a while, and because we're friends on Facebook, and oh yeah, here it is, dude. Like I think he like wrote like X-Men or something. Yeah, dude,
What?
he like wrote an X-Men comic or some shit.
Is he Ashcan Press?
No, he's Matthew Rosenberg on Facebook.
Yeah, but on Twitter, he's got Ashcan
Oh,
Press. Writes comics, We Can Never Go Home, Four Kids Walk Into a Bank, X-Men Uncanny Astonishing, Punisher, Star
dude,
Wars.
I legit think he's like it says coming from this July from me and Marvel, Punisher 13 X-Men. I think he's like writing
So
these.
is he writing it or is he drawing it?
I don't even fucking know. Either way, I'm like, what on earth is happening?
Yeah,
Like it
no,
popped up one day, and I was like, wait a second, is this guy? Dude, I'm looking at the Uncanny X-Men. His name is on the front. It says Rosenberg LaRocca Guru FX.
yeah, I'm on his website right now. Ashcan Press, Matthew Rosenberg, and Patrick Kinlan Kindle on, write comic books. This is their website.
Dude,
Dude, this is
this
nuts.
X-Men Uncanny, Matthew Rosenberg, Salvador Larroca, Guru Effects, and Joe Camarga put X-Men in their most desires. He's like one of the guys.
Yeah.
This is like literally a comiccon.com. I love how much plot Rosenberg has been packing into each issue. He's fucking writing these.
Dude, that's crazy. I thought he was just, I don't.
Dude, I saw him like literally, I'm not kidding, probably 10 years ago now. So I work in Union Square.
Wait, did you see him? I'm not gonna cut this out, but did you see him
You
at the Texas the Reason show? That was the last time I saw him.
No, I did not. I was not there. I was out of town for that.
Okay.
No, so I saw it's probably been almost 10 years. So our office is on 11th Street and Broadway in Manhattan, and I live on 15th and 3rd, and Virgin used to be on 14th and Broadway, so it's like all there. And I ran into Matt walking to work from my house. He was working at Forbidden Planet, the comic book store, like 10 years ago. I ran into him on the street. I'm like, what are you doing here? He's like, oh, I work at this comic book store. Like, he was literally like a retail dude at the comic book store. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. Like, we should catch up. And like, I think we like went to go see Against Me do a CMJ showcase like together.
Okay.
And this was probably like, this is now like actually probably more than 10 years ago. And like, I was like, oh, we should keep in touch. And like, we just kind of never kept in touch. We kind of would like Facebook about like, or like maybe it was MySpace at the time about like baseball, because he's like a huge baseball dude. And but then I lost touch with him. But I was friends with him on Facebook, and then like something popped up, like, and I was just like kind of like, what the fuck? Does this guy write these comic books? Like the last I knew, he was like literally working at Forbidden Planet, at like as like a retail kid at this like, it's like a huge store, like right in Union Square kind of.
I'm sending you a link to his Twitter, because if you go to his Twitter, he's got 17,000 followers, and he's got all of
What?
these. Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh
Dude,
yeah.
good for him.
I mean, dude, yeah. I mean, you should be here. I'll send you his Matt, dude. It's facebook.com/Matt Redleader.
Yeah, I
How
sent
have you
him.
not had him on how have you not had him on this?
Dude, he doesn't like me
Why?
because we fucked over the record.
Wait, which one? The second
We
record?
we took stories from, or like he wasn't putting out, like we needed stories to tour with, and he didn't have any money to put it out. So Sean was like, "Fuck it, I'll put it on my credit card and I'll put it out." So Sean ended up putting
He
out.
can't still be mad.
I don't think I mean I would highly doubt that he is,
I mean,
but
dude, literally, I mean, I've probably listened to 2/3 of your podcasts, and half of those have mentioned him.
yeah, I mean,
I mean,
like,
he's got to be on here.
no, I mean, like Matt, I would
I
love
think
to.
Ricky and I should just beat him up and be like, "Yo, you need to do this."
Dude, I would love to have Matt on here, like, because I
I
would
mean,
hope that he doesn't like fucking hate me anymore for not,
I mean, even if he does, it should be like therapeutic to get it out. Like, if he still hates you, then he should talk about it.
Dude, I mean, when Barker was on, I talked about that whole Midtown story where we were on tour and we were talking like shit about
I was
Midtown.
on tour when that happened.
Yeah, you were
I was
doing
so
merch.
bummed. I was so bummed that you
Yeah,
guys did that. And
yeah.
I was like, dude, what the fuck? Why would they do that?
We were
Like,
just jealous, man. We were
oh,
bummed out
I know.
because
I
yeah,
think it was in Florida. I remember it was at
it was in
one
Orlando.
yeah, I was gonna say it's still a venue now, but they've changed the name like 5 times. It's like a 400 seater, and like I can't remember. Dude, I remember that.
Yeah, because you were at the merch table and then Gabe was
Yeah.
standing next to you and I was like, "Hey man, can I talk to you?" And he was like, "What the fuck, dude?" I mean, that was a whole thing with Gabe that went back to the Humble Beginnings days when he like, because we all used to hang out, and then once he left
Yeah.
Humble and did Midtown, he just completely forgot about everyone. And we were all like, what the fuck, man? Like we were all just like crashing at Bob's house a couple like months ago, drinking beers and talking shit. Now you completely just said fuck everyone.
I was so bummed because I was like as good of friends with you guys as those guys, and it was like I was so excited to see you guys because it was like, I'm on the road with these guys I don't really know that well, and I like probably knew you guys even better. And I was like, oh my God, these are my guys, whatever. And then like the shit went down. I was like so bummed.
Yeah, I think I
I
remember
even
that too.
remember we like took shirts of yours and wrote "fuck Laymire" on them. Tyler and I were gonna wear them to the show in Jersey, but we decided we'd be giving you guys too much publicity. For real, because
Jesus
I
Christ.
remember this now. So we had like a show, like the last day of that Weston tour was in like Fort Lauderdale, and we literally drove like 2 days later. We had a show at Club Benet
Club and A.
with
Yeah.
Saves the Day and Shady View. So like we literally left the show in Fort Lauderdale and drove nonstop, like from Fort Lauderdale all the way to Jersey, and like got there at like 3 p.m. the day of the show, and just like went right to the venue and like played a show. So like, but I remember like we were gonna like let's wear fuck Laymeyer shirts on like and like wear them and like and I just remember like we're like nah, that's like giving them too much, like we're giving into them, and
It,
that was like
it was funny too because we weren't like on stage saying anything. We were just having discussions within ourselves and with
yeah.
random
But like you
kids
guys
probably.
came to like, but you guys came to the show and like there was like a confrontation.
No, the Orlando show?
Yeah, I
No,
think
no, no,
Sean and
no.
Gabe like had a confrontation, like
No, what happened was
or
I
Tyler kind of called you guys out or something. I feel
yeah,
like
what happened was so Julia was our roadie, our last roadie
okay,
on the last tour, and she was friends with Midtown. So we were in the middle of somewhere and she goes, "Hey, apparently Midtown has caught wind that you guys have been talking shit and they're kind of pissed." And I was like, "Fuck." So by the time we got to Orlando, we were already about almost 2 months into the tour where it was
yeah,
not like anything great. I mean, it was a fun tour. We had some good shows, but it was a struggle. So I was so fried by that point. We got to Clearwater, and I said to Sean, I was like, "Yo, I'm taking the van to this show, and I'm gonna go straighten this shit out because this is fucking stupid." So
yeah,
I drove with Julia to the show, went up to Tyler, and he was just giving me the fucking riot
yes,
act.
that's right.
He
That's what
was
it
just
was.
like,
That's
"Well,
right.
whatever." And I'm kind of like, and part of me was kind of like, "All right, dude, let's just fucking relax." I never like
Yeah,
knew Tyler, and I didn't really
yeah,
care. And I was
yeah,
like, "Look, I'm here apologizing. I'm not here to get fucking thrown under the water." I'm like, "It was words, so fucking relax."
yeah, yeah.
And then I saw you, and then I talked to Gabe, and I was like, I'm really sorry. So he kind of like was like, "That's totally cool," even though I knew he was kind of like, "It's not cool."
Yeah.
But I was like, I totally get it, I understand. And then yeah, that makes me sad that you were like bummed about it. I was like, "Fuck, that sucks."
Like honestly, part of me felt like Sean was mad at me because I chose Midtown over you guys, even though there wasn't really a choice. It was like a weird thing. Like
Yeah,
it just
man, we were all just super jealous of their success. I mean, we didn't know it, but it's what it was.
was Brian in the band yet?
Yeah, this is the only tour he did with us. It was
Yeah,
the
that's what I
longest
thought.
tour we ever
Yeah.
did. Yeah. Like he almost quit after like the first week we were on tour, first couple days. He was like, "Dude, what the fuck is with you guys?" I was like, "I know, I know."
When the first Gaslight record came out, and someone told me it was Brian Fallon, like Brian, I literally laughed for like 10 minutes. I could not believe that. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
No, actually, I think it was the second Gaslight record that came out because I didn't even like. I barely knew the first record because the only reason I knew it was because who was the dude that put that record out?
Oh, I forget. Yeah, yeah, it was Eyeball, right?
No, I don't think it was.
Wasn't Alex?
No, it wasn't Eyeball. Because the dude that put it out like used to sell weed to my roommate.
That's incredible.
And that's how I was like, oh, he's like, you should check out this band Gaslight Anthem. I'm like, okay, yeah. And then like someone like, I'm like, oh yeah, they're pretty good. And like, oh yeah, they got signed to like whatever they got signed to. Um,
Yeah, it was Sink or Swim.
Sink or Swim was the first record, right?
Yeah, because the second one was 59 Sound.
Yeah, 50.
XO Records.
Yes, that record label.
Okay,
Whoever was the guy that like ran that would like sell my roommate at the time weed.
that's
Like he would just come,
hilarious.
and he was like, "Oh, you should check out this band." I'm like, "They just got signed to wherever they got signed to." Like, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's pretty good." And then like someone told me like, I think they got signed to Side One Dummy maybe or
Yeah,
Island somebody, but they like told me like they're like, "Yeah, Brian Fallon. Do you remember him? He was in." I'm like, "What? Like
yeah.
he's the lead singer? Like that kid was in the corner, always so quiet. Like what the? I couldn't. I was like shocked.
Such an awkward dude in the band, man.
Yeah, I was
Oh
like,
man.
wait, that kid, like that kid that was just like all like there's like 10 dudes just hanging around the corner. He's like he like hanging around together, like just bullshitting. And he was just like kind of often like by himself, like reading or whatever. Like
Oh yeah, dude. He was always like journaling and writing and all this crap.
yeah,
It was pretty
like he
funny.
just like by himself, like and like I vividly remember like the Wayne Firehouse like quote unquote backstage area where it's just like everyone's just like fucking around.
Yeah.
It's like whatever, like before, during, after shows, like just bullshitting, like just hanging out, like whatever, nobody was even doing anything, just like whatever.
Yeah, he just wasn't. Yeah, he was just a fly on the wall. That
Yeah,
fucking
it was
dude.
so funny. I lost my shit when I found that. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Like that kid's the singer of this band? Like that? Wow! Like I was like so blown away by that. Like
He
I
always
just,
wanted it, man. He always wanted it, and he like
yeah.
got it. He again just goes
Oh,
back to what we were
dude,
talking
God
about.
bless.
He
Holy
fucking
shit.
went for it.
Yeah,
People go
yeah,
nuts for his ass.
yeah. It's crazy. I mean,
Um,
I would think he's probably the biggest kid to ever come out of the scene, right?
I would say he's yeah.
I think he's bigger than Cobra ever was for Gabe.
Oh, definitely. I mean, he's still living off of. I mean, I just interviewed Benny like a couple episodes ago, and I mean, he's just like, yeah, live in the house and just I'm going on tour in another band. And so I mean, if Benny's making money off of this, I mean,
Yeah,
Brian's killing it.
yeah. Probably he's got to be. I mean, it's
So,
crazy.
all right, dude. Well, I am gonna wrap
Yes,
this up. I'll
you're
probably
gonna need to
cut a
edit
lot of
this
that.
quite a bit.
Yeah, I'll
Yes,
have
yeah,
to.
yeah. All good.
It's just
If
the
I
best
said
part.
anything really shitty about anybody or was an asshole,
I
just cut
will.
it out.
I will totally keep it.
Definitely, let's keep all the parts about us just being like, what the fuck is Matt Redleader doing writing comic books?
Hey,
What
man.
a
If
fucking nerd. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, dude, I would totally love, like I said, I would love to talk to Matt and hope that he doesn't
I might message
hold
him
a
and be like,
grudge.
dude, I think you need to do this podcast. Like, if Doyle got me, then it's real bad that you need somebody real on this thing.
Oh, come on, man. Trust me. Like everyone, all these interviews are
I do
they're
feel like that's a thing
meaningful.
like nobody ever wants. Like I was like dreading doing. I'm like, dude, I don't want to. What am I gonna like? Oh no, like
Everyone's always dreading it, and they get on, they're like, "Wow, that was an hour." Dude, we've been talking for 2 hours.
I know because it's just we're just talking as friends because we know each other enough. So that's why your podcast is good because it's not forced and it's just conversation and
Yeah,
that's good.
I love just like random, like people. I mean, podcasts are just about listening, but like when people just are just having, as long as it's going somewhere, like, and there's a theme to it, I love just like casual conversation
I
about
definitely jumped
shit.
around a lot, but whatever. It's
It's
all
all under the umbrella.
my
It's all
brain
under the
is
punk
my
rock
brain is
umbrella.
like I had to do a lot of like remembering with Steve and like going through my shit or whatever.
That's fine. All right, dude. So before we go, what would you like to plug?
I'm not like a plugger. How about Stories for the Big Screen EP on I Surrender Records, the vinyl?
Perfect. That's the best plug I've ever
I'll plug
heard.
I Surrender Records. That's our record label. And
Name
we
some
got
other releases on there. You guys at 4 Year Strong. You got some
yeah
Midtown
we
stuff on there.
signed yeah we did the re-release of Midtown stuff on vinyl. 4 Year Strong, who ended up getting signed to Republic. We signed a band years ago called Valencia. They ended up getting signed to Columbia, and then went back to I Surrender for the third record.
Oh, wow.
Um, Brendan actually works at Crush now. He's like our um, head of creative. He's like
Oh,
the guitar player for that
nice.
band. But yeah, like we did it. I mean, for a little DIY record label, like we did pretty good stuff. Like two of our bands got signed to majors. Like that's pretty sweet.
Damn,
It's
dude.
like
I didn't know
it's
that.
like me, Rob, and our friend Gabby, who works at Crush too. Like we literally just worked out of Rob's kitchen. Like then like it was just like that was just it.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and Rob lived with Mikey Way at the time.
Holy shit.
Mikey, then he lived with Max Bemis. How about that for a roommate?
What?
Yeah,
Dude,
same
that must have been a
place.
crazy fucking
Same
place.
place. Mike, I think it was Mikey Way moved out, and then Max Bemis moved in. Like he had a hilarious revolving like door of people.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, real funny stuff. Yeah, just
Wow.
hanging out in fucking 233 Skillman. I'm almost certain that's the address in Brooklyn.
I can't imagine the Bemis stories. All right, so last question, before I let you on your way.
Yeah,
What scene ethics do you still hold on to this day?
I would just say hard work and like make shit happen on your own. To me, is like the most ethical part of that I still carry with me. Like I'm vegetarian still. I learned that from the scene. Just like alternatively thinking, I think is like another one where it's like just because everyone's going right, you don't need to go right. Like what's left? Like think outside the box and like do shit on your own and make shit happen. And I think that's kind of like the most like the kind of ethics I still hold on to. I think I just feel like going counter to everybody else is, to me, is like there's always more than one path. You don't have to be a sheep. You know, you can go another way, and I think that's probably what I've held on to the most.